We are motherfucking back.
I'm literally looking at the screen right now, and I'm like, I have come so far from the first
Mhm.
calls that I did with Tej. Oh my God. Like it all is so clear. And
Mm.
wow, what a beautiful thing it is.
What do you see about that? If you just tune into that, what's arising for you in this moment?
You know when you go to an old place and it's a place you've been there before and you see where you've been because it's the old setting? That's how I feel right now. And the old setting is me looking at a Skype call from Teshtos.
Dude, it's the last Skype call I had was our call, whenever that was.
Wow. When was that?
I don't know. I do know it was like 2 hours though, because when I was calling you on Skype now, it's like the last call was 2 hours and 1 minute. I was like, sounds about right.
Oh my God. Dude. Oh, what a
What a
beautiful
fucking
journey.
trip.
What a
What a
beautiful
trip.
journey.
Dude, I'm so excited to like this conversation, like my one of my favorite shows like in the online space was like The Random Show with Tim Ferriss and Kevin Ross.
Yes.
And I just love how they just like fucking hit record and just vibe the fuck out and like whatever arises. And I kind of want to do that today because I think like the journey that you've been on has been, fucking incredible. Like it's been so inspiring. And I'm just curious to unpack like everything that's been going on for you. Everybody knows like more or less, I mean, not everybody, but like people are familiar with all the external stuff. But like me, bro, I'm fucking curious. Like what's going on in that, that inner world of Danny Miranda? So no,
Dude.
as always, yeah, go on.
I mean, the inner world is just so full of love, so full of joy. All the tweets that you used to tweet about that I really felt like I understood in some deep part of myself, I feel all of the time. Like I feel pure joy. I feel peace really in the past few days, but really in the past month, just so much love for every being, so much unconditional love for just the people I come across, the situations I come across. And even I recorded a documentary, and my friend Tiger recorded a documentary of me October 7th. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a completely different person from that moment.
Mm,
And
mm.
and so I'm just in awe of life. I'm in awe of it all. I'm so grateful for it. And I just genuinely feel an emanation of, in this moment, peace. But for the past month, just unconditional love and joy. So yeah, man, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness. And obviously, like you played a critical role in getting this ball rolling in the right direction. I was in deep suffering. I wasn't suffering. Suffering actually isn't the right,
Ah.
but I was in pain, and I was not happy with my circumstances, and I wasn't happy with the present moment, and I wanted things to change, and I had so much to let go of. If I think about that letter in the La Jolla Library and
Mhm.
just this journey that you've helped me go on. I mean, the fact that you did 75 hard with me, like I don't know if I could ever repay you for that because you believed in me and showed me how much you believed in me by doing it with me, by me saying I'm doing it and then you said I'm doing it too. That gave me the sense that you believed in me and that gave me the feeling of like, okay, like I can if Tej believes in me and I know how much I respect Tej, then that means that I'm someone worth respecting, which means I should respect myself, which means that I'm going to meditate, which means that I'm going to like, and so that path and that belief in me really is a remarkable thing that I hope to give to other people to the best of my abilities moving forward. But yeah, man, thank you for your impact on the journey.
Dude, it goes both ways. I'm so curious. How does peace feel like in this moment?
It it feels like all is well.
Mm.
All is well.
Dude, how crazy is that? Like, I remember the first time all is well started to arise in my consciousness. It was like, these were the exact fucking words that are meant for what I'm experiencing. Like, it hits it so well. And even I was on a call earlier today, for instance, right? And I was like asking, like, hey, how does it, like, what's like something that you would tell to like the 29-year-old version of yourself? And this was the older gentleman that you introduced me to. And he's like, just know that it's going to be okay. And he's like, it can be applied both ways, right? You might like fucking shit the bed and it's going to be okay. Or you might fucking make it to the top of the world and it's going to be okay.
Yes. Yes.
But,
that's it.
But the all is wellness. Like when you tune into feeling all is truly well, what does that do for you?
Your problems, the perceived problems you have are being taken care of. You are being guided. You're blessed. You're living. You're in this experience. And you have, if you have the deep inner knowing that all is well, you can really tap into the present moment in a way that allows you, if you don't believe all is well, you are inherently worried about something in this moment, which means you can't actually be in this moment. So the more that you can really feel all is well, the more you can feel the words someone is saying, the words you're saying, the appropriate action to take in any given moment, because all is well. So there's no problems for you to deal with, for your mind to chatter about. So that's what all is well does for me. What does all is well do for you?
I think you nailed it. For me, I noticed like I feel like normally we're oriented towards either living in the mind, which is usually run by judgment, or we're experiencing the present moment that is much more engrossed in compassion. And I notice for me, when I'm more so in the mind and I'm identified with like various identities, or I'm being run by the inner critic, for instance, it doesn't feel like all is well, and I feel separate from reality. It feels like I'm not a part of the movie, I'm not a part of the moment, and I'm not a part of the flow. So in response, I feel like a flower that closes down and shuts off. Now, contrast that to when I feel more in my body. I feel more in tune with presence. I feel more of the peace and the compassion and the richness that is available in each and every moment. I notice my experience is like a flower that softens and it opens up and it reveals its deeper treasures.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it reminds me of what Michael Singer talks about, where it's like the purpose of life is to open the heart. Anytime you feel the heart close, that's that's not what can happen in that moment.
Dude.
To lead to the most joy and peace and abundance and all of it.
Dude, it's such a fucking trip, right? Because like I would have a closed heart and then I would think I had to rearrange furniture in my external world for my heart to open again. And I spent my entire fucking life rearranging furniture, bro.
You say that, but I feel like your heart has been open for quite some time. When did it feel like your heart was permanently open?
I feel like I've gone through phases of like I go in and out of it, right? But I noticed like when I truly felt like my heart was more so open on an ongoing basis when I realized that there's nowhere to fucking go. Like, dude. Dude, I truly thought like I had a fucking like I think like, you know, and I include myself in this, like I was like, dude, I have a mental illness. Like what the fuck is wrong with me? Where am I trying to go? Right? And when it truly hit me that there's nowhere to go, dude, like I was like metaphorically and probably literally too just brought to my knees and just sobbing with tears.
Because if there's somewhere to go, that implies that where you are right now is not perfect.
Exactly, bro. And like with that experience, I was like, holy fuck, we're in heaven and nobody fucking knows.
Yes. Yes. So do you think that like we've been put here to remind people that this is heaven and to
Mm.
let people know that you can be free and to let people know that you can be loved if you get out of your own way with the limitations in the prison that you have put yourself in? Do you think we've been sent here on this mission?
I think there's like a very big shift that's like going on. I think it's very interesting. I don't know. But what I do know is I feel like we're all fingers that belong to the same hand. And imagine, like, let's say you sit on your hand and the hand goes to sleep. And then let's say you start like moving one of the fingers and it's the first one to wake up. Naturally, the impulse of that finger is going to shoot signals throughout the entirety of the hand and it's going to start waking up all the other fingers. Right? So I feel like the more that we come online, the more that the finger of Danny Miranda comes online and Tej, naturally, without us trying, it sends ripples throughout the field, throughout the entirety of the hand, throughout the entirety of creation. And everybody, you know, they feel an impact. They start coming, they start moving a little bit different, or they sense something in you, like your tweet. They're like, dude, you're different, but not in a bad way, in a good way. Right? Like the entire hand starts coming online. So I feel like something is happening from a lot of the different people that I've been talking to. They're like, dude, like something definitely is cooking, but I have zero fucking clue what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting theory. And it is really interesting how when you start acting with more love and when you start feeling more love within you, that starts forcing you to act with more love, because when you feel love, you want to act with love. And when you act with love, people say, wait, what is going on in this guy's consciousness? Why is he doing this? Why is he really present with me? Why is he like doing an extra kind thing? And it gets people curious, and it gets them, wait, why am I not doing that? Or what is different about this person? And that's what I noticed in you, right? I noticed this feeling of like, there is something about this guy that is pulling me in, is drawing me towards him. And he's not doing anything to make me want to do that, but it's just in his being. And so it's very interesting seeing that unfold within my own life recently. And it's really a special thing. And it gives you the opportunity to impact people when you are living with more love, with more peace in every moment. So thank you for being that role model to begin with, because Lord knows you need somebody to be the first finger for you to wake up. And so, yeah, it's a special thing.
Dude, vice versa. Like sometimes my finger that I am the character, it goes to sleep and then I read a Danny tweet and then it fucking comes back online, you know? So
yeah,
it goes
I love that.
It goes both ways. And I think like there's something so beautiful to be said about that, because you know, the way you ended that documentary, which was fantastic. I loved it. The Ram Dass quote, we're all just walking each other home.
Yeah.
So even just when you hear that, it just like completely shatters my mind and just puts me directly in the heart.
Yes. I listened to that and I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Like, and I forgot that I said that.
Dude, you drop the most bars when you forget what you're talking about. When you forget yourself and you just fucking unleash.
Because God's working through you in that moment.
Dude, how fucking, like, I don't think, like, this to me is what's so fucking exciting, right? Like, I feel like where in many ways, this to me is like a very interesting experiment where it feels like it's more so on the cutting edge, and it's less about like what does Tej want to do in this life and what the fuck does God want to do, you know? How does God want to show up on this conversation? How does God want to have an interaction? How does God want to greet the store clerk worker or build a business or record a podcast? Like, what does God want to do? And that to me is like such an interesting question, and it fills me with such joy and curiosity, because the truth of the matter is I have zero fucking idea. All I can do is embody presence in this moment and let God do its fucking thing.
Yeah, man. That's such a special realization to have. And like, when did you start thinking like that?
So I started thinking like that. It was for the bulk of my life, obviously, I was just like run by my mind, right? It was like I was just carrying out the agenda of Tej, and there's nothing wrong with that. I had a lot of fucking fun, a lot of great joy. But then I would notice that the moments that light me up with pure fucking ecstasy, the moments that fill me with such awe and wonder at the sheer mystery of existence, the moments that allow me to feel at my utmost best is when I felt like something deeper was living, creating, speaking through me. And I became fucking addicted. I was like, dude, what is this? Like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why am I on a walk right now? I'm feeling like I'm walking on air as a result of this podcast I just recorded with Danny. What the fuck is going on? And as a result of that, I just got so curious. I'm like, man, like, you know, I would rotate between where it felt like, for a bulk of my life, it felt like life was like a dress rehearsal. Like I was just warming up for the real thing, but the real thing wasn't there yet. Like I was preparing for the real thing. I wasn't in the pool. I was just dipping my toes in the water. And then when I started experiencing this, I was like, holy fuck, this is full throttle fucking living. Like this is where it's fucking at. And then the more I started to experience that, the more I started experiencing a shift between my orientation and also what I deemed to be more valuable, right? And I also had other experiences where the floor was somewhat ripped under my feet, which were quite painful. And I realized that I was really just living in a mind-made reality. It was a prison. It was a fancy prison. It was a nice prison. It had, you know, everything I wanted inside that prison, but a prison is still a fucking prison. And until you get a whiff of freedom, you don't know you're in prison, right? And then I got that whiff of freedom and I'm like, God damn, this fucking freedom. And in contrast, like the prison became illuminated and I saw that how I actually wasn't free. I was imprisoned. And then, you know, just that whiff is like an act of grace. If you just get a whiff of freedom, that's all it fucking takes, bro. Just that whiff, you know? It's just like, oh my God, I know you're feeling it right now, bro. Just that fucking whiff.
I am. Just a whiff of freedom makes you realize, and it's just such an act of grace. Just a whiff of freedom is such an act of grace. It's so true. And I believe that how you get that whiff of freedom is by uncovering a lie that you are currently believing as a truth.
Say more about that.
The freedom, the lies that I have told myself that I believe were true, that I was living in my own prisons of, as soon as I uncovered them as false, I then became more free. I then got closer to God. And so if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, I don't feel that freedom, I don't feel that level, it's because you're lying to yourself somewhere. And that's okay. I mean, I was lying to myself in so many ways, So like, it's completely fine. Like it's fine to lie to yourself because it's normal, but you don't have to lie to yourself. And if you don't lie to yourself, you become more free. So like, one lie that I told myself was, if I was from a wealthy family, that would mean that any success that I had, any material success I had on my own would be meaningless because no one would actually allow me to be successful in their eyes if I made money through myself. It's just like, look at that. Like you feel the prison of that statement, and you recognize that, and you say that out loud to somebody, and often that's all it takes is you to say the lie that you've been living out loud to somebody and have the courage to do that. And then you realize the insignificance of that. And then you become free as a result of you recognizing the lie is a lie. And then you being able to live in another truth, in some version of the truth that you weren't living in before. How does that resonate with you?
Dude, I think you fucking nailed it. Like what you just said, it makes light bulbs go off because even like everything you say on Twitter and the way you point people towards looking into their insecurities, I think all the gold is housed there.
Yes.
Right? Like even for myself, I notice like there's sometimes a tendency to like think that the path towards the light is by going towards the light. But what I noticed was it's actually going towards the darkness and illuminating the darkness until it restores itself to the natural state, which is light.
Wow. I think it's both. I think if you repeat the statement all is well over and over and over again, which is a light statement, if you repeat the words I love you, God, over and over again, if you listen to worship music over and over again, you will get closer to the light. And all of that is light. And that's one side of it. And then the other side of it is, where's your darkness that you're not willing to own right now? Where is the parts of yourself that you have shame or guilt around that you would not want anyone to know or talk to anyone about? That is exactly where you should find your freedom, or you can find your freedom if you want it. And so it's both, and both have worked tremendously well for me. And it's really interesting, the dichotomy. I love talking to people about the insecurities and all the ways in which the things that they're looking at that they don't want to look at. To me, that I found so much joy there. And I also found joy in the other places of the light. So it's an interesting dichotomy.
I think you nailed it. I think what I noticed, like if you're just looking at your insecurities, for instance, and you're just looking at all your what you perceive to be limitations, you know, a lot of people do that and they just become depressed. Right? They feel like there's nothing there. So what I noticed was, it's ultimately the way you illuminate a dark room is by bringing light into the room, and the light is the embodiment of presence. So what I noticed was, if I'm sensing my arms and legs and I'm feeling my feet on the floor, and then I inquire into something that is a lie that I'm believing, then when it meets my presence, when it meets that light, it dissolves, because falsehood cannot survive in the presence of truth. Right? So exactly what you said. So if I do repeat things like all is well, I love God, and I listen to worship music, dude, we got to talk about the worship music out here. This shit is fucking insane. But anyway,
so good. So good.
The more that I listen to that, the more naturally I actualize light in my being, and I embody presence. And then from that place, if I look into my limitation, I'm not only going to be able to look at the limitation, but I'm also going to be able to reveal my true limitation, because I feel the presence of the light. I feel safety. I feel compassion. So I can open up like a flower and reveal my true insecurities. Right? Wow. And in that moment, once the insecurity meets the light of presence, it dissolves and melts, and it reveals itself to be for me, it always feels like a mind spell that I was under that wasn't actually true, but because I kept it in the darkness, it continued to run me from the shadows, and it was made to be true. But once I shine the light of awareness, the presence of God's always like, come on, you thought this was a limitation? It just fucking eats it, bro. It just dissolves it.
It's light work. It's
light work.
This is
dude, holy fuck.
Oh my God. That's so good for so many reasons. We are literally doing light work out here.
Dude.
Like light work. And then also, this is light work. This shit's easy.
Dude, that is profound what you just said. I remember it was like a Floyd Mayweather video where he was just like, just saying hard work, like over again. But now you're like, this is light work, dude. Exactly that. Exactly that.
I'm gonna be running the Austin Marathon, just being like light work. Bro, I run around the trails here, and I don't wear headphones, and I just run, and I pass so many people, and every time I pass somebody, I try to give them one word of joy, love, compassion, peace. Joy, love, compassion, peace, and every person is one of those words, and I just use my consciousness and direct one of those words to them, and it's a remarkable practice. People like just light up looking at it, and it's amazing. It's truly an amazing thing to witness.
And what do you think it's about? Because I noticed, like, even various statements, like whether it's like I love myself or God loves me or all is well, I noticed that they have a very profound impact on you. Right? They're not just words, like they truly soak into the entirety of your being and illuminate you, where you become a physical representation of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think it's so beautiful the way that it impacts you, where it's not just mental. Like a lot of the times when people repeat things, they just keep it in the mental domain, right? They don't allow it to trickle down into the heart and completely change the way they're playing the video game of life. But you've been you have this such amazing openness to reality and trust in reality, that you're willing to fucking go to the places where nobody wants to go, but everybody desperately wants to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that reflection. It's funny, mantras have popped up so many times in the past week for me in terms of people saying mantras, mantras, mantras. And I love mantras. Like, I genuinely believe that you can impact your reality and the reality of other people around you if you insert the right programming, the right mantras into your being. It probably helps that I'm meditating often. And so I can use those words or use those sentences as anchoring points. And I think that, I don't know, I've just been blessed. Like, my mantra that came to me yesterday, my most recent one is, I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. We are blessed. We are blessed. We are blessed. Like, just say we are blessed over and over and over again. It's like, all is well. All is well. And so I love it, man. And it really does impact me at a deep level. And that's why I post that video of 1,000 level calibrations, because I know it impacts me. I know how it changes my state. I initially recorded that video for myself, or that affirmation tape for myself, because why wouldn't I just put all the words that fill me with joy and fill my being with presence? Why wouldn't I just put all those in one track? Like, that seems like the most obvious thing for me to do. And if it helps someone else, great. If someone else thinks I'm crazy for that, also great. Like, it's just it's truly about surrendering to what I feel like just should be out there. So yeah, man, I love mantras. What are some of your favorite mantras?
I noticed for me, the all is well one is like always a very good anchor that brings me back to the present moment, because whenever I don't feel like all is well, I'm usually lost in the mind. So immediately it brings me back to the moment. Obviously I love the Ravikant one, the I love myself. But I noticed for me, the greatest support, the greatest anchor has actually been to feel presence through the body. Right? Because I think I'm more oriented towards like fucking getting lost in my head. Right? So for me, it's always been in order to feel like, whenever, like for instance, on this conversation, as I'm feeling my feet on the floor, I just feel that presence. Like, I feel like I'm just being bathed in presence right now. And I immediately go there. And from there, everything fucking happens. And I'm like, this is the greatest joy on earth. So for me, it's always been getting back into the body, feeling my arms and legs, sensing what's here, truly sensing, truly feeling the moment from the inside out, truly leading with the heart, and landing. Like, I feel very landed in the moment, where it feels like I'm at the central of the moment. My heart is central to this moment, and from here everything happens. So sometimes I'll use mantras as almost like a bridge that brings me back here, and then I'll let go of the mantra.
Yeah, that's the mantras for when you get lost out of the presence. Or it can be.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Sometimes it's just like this exactly, you're in it, and then you also have the mantra, which is actually a really beautiful experience.
It is. You get lost in the mantra. And I actually gave someone was like, I was talking to someone yesterday, and they said, I was giving them a compliment, and they couldn't receive the compliment. They deflected it with something else. And it was clear, if you can't accept the compliment from someone else, it's because you haven't been able to say that compliment to yourself. It's a tell or a giveaway, right? And so I said to him, one thing that I would consider trying if I was you was to say, I love myself, for 5 minutes straight in the mirror, looking into your eyes. It's a practice from Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Kamal Ravikant. And he's like, I'll give that a try. I really will. And it's like, when it's easy for us to get lost in the theory of it, and the excitement of it, and the peace of it, and the joy of it, and the presence of it. But the truth is, like, there are people out there struggling with not accepting a compliment, right? And it's like, okay, what do we tell that person who's like, I cannot accept a compliment? or doesn't even know that they can't accept the compliment, or it's being pointed out to them. It's like, what's your advice to that person? I told them, I say I love myself in the mirror 5 minutes a day for 30 days and see what happens. What would you tell that person?
What a beautiful question. I love this. I love the practicality and the realness of this, because I think this is exactly what's needed. Because personally, I think sometimes there's a big separation if you go on YouTube and you type in like whatever, your favorite teacher or whatever, and you watch a video, and then you bring it back to the guy that's like working a dead end job, that's like fucking stuck in traffic, miserable, in a state of depression. Yeah. It's like it doesn't land. And that always kind of like, I don't know. I just feel for that person in that car, because I like sometimes see myself in that person in that car.
Yeah.
So yeah. What a beautiful question. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to like tune into it.
I love you.
I love you too, brother. I think what I noticed is like, I'm trying to put myself in that person's shoes, right? Because I can see like how when you're in darkness, there's a part of you that actually hates the light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right? You're scared. You are scared. And this is from this guy. You are scared that the living in the light will rob you of your work ethic that's gotten you to this point. That's really what...
Dude, we really need to unpack this.
Yes, we do. And that's why we're here, to do the light work.
Dude, because I was gonna go on a tangent, because a lot of the people that I talk to, like that are very quote unquote successful founders, CEOs, whatever, their thing, and I'm gonna get back, I promise I'm not dodging the initial question. It's working in the background, it's rendering like a video game.
Yeah.
They always say like they use the darkness to propel themselves to great heights, and they feel like without the darkness they would have nothing, and they won't be able to achieve as much or to live as optimally as they wish. And that to me is like one of the greatest lies that keeps that system running.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't retweet a statement more. Video King Pablo is just gonna take what you just said and gonna chop it up into a wonderful clip. And it is so true. It is so true. I'm gonna make a note to 31 minutes into this episode. 32. Okay.
I love it. But yeah, like I want to tackle that deeply. I want us together to go in deep with that and actually see what unravels and what comes forth. But first, let's go back to the guy in the car. So yeah, like what I noticed was like, I'll give you a personal example, right? So what I noticed, like, let's say you're completely in the pits of despair, and there's a part of you that actually hates the light because deep down inside you feel like you've been betrayed by God.
Yep.
Right? So you, on some level, I'm not saying this is conscious, like you could believe in God, you can know God, whatever, but there's a part of you inside, right, that feels let down, that feels a sense of betrayal, that feels a sense of abandonment, and this pain goes quite deep. So what I noticed in myself was, if, like, you'll see this, even like, I don't know, for instance, you recorded a podcast with Miss Excel a long time ago, right?
Yes.
And remember the reactions to the podcast where you were like, people are either really, really drawn to this light, or some people just really are fucking turned off.
Yes, people were triggered
Exactly.
or in the light. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So this is what I noticed. Like if somebody's in the depths of darkness, then if you shine light on them, they're initially going to hate the light and they're repulsed by it because they feel that sense of abandonment and that sense of betrayal unconsciously. So for me, I felt this. Right? I felt a deep hatred towards God. I felt deep hatred. I felt murderous rage. I felt anger and frustration. Like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm fucking dropped off on this shitty ass fucking planet and I got to go through these shitty ass fucking experiences. Like, dude, like, fuck this. And it actually feels good to feel that because that's all I fucking have, bro, at that point.
Wow.
That's
what age is this for you?
This was like more so like in my high school days.
Got you.
Right? So it's all I have at that point. And if I let that go, I feel like I'm going to die. So all I can hold on to is my negativity. So my journey was more so acknowledging that I'm actually feeling that it's actually there, and embodying some sort of presence to meet that. And the journey that I went down was actually to get in touch with that murderous rage and kick and hit and scream and punch like a couch, not a person, a couch. And then through that, it actually opened up to tremendous hurt.
Mm.
And through the hurt, that's where I realized that I'm actually feeling hurt because I've been let down, or I feel like I've been let down by the light. And then through that hurt, it naturally opens up to the love. That's why the stuff that you were doing, where you were like pointing towards insecurities and stuff, I think like that's actually the road. Once you meet it with the light, once you meet it with presence. So what I would say is like what you said, to first do something to actualize a little bit of the light, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and to expect it to be uncomfortable, and to expect a part of you is going to resist the light and actually hate it. So when you say I love myself, when you look in the mirror, feel those reactions and the repulsion that starts to come up that makes you want to puke. Feel that. And know that that's not really, you. It's just like a part of the psyche that gets created as a result of the experiences we go through once we become disconnected from the light to no fault of our own. It's just the way the personality develops. So if you know that and you know, hey, this is going to happen, then it actually gives you a fucking chance to stay in the arena, to stay in the light, to stay under the light. And as that happens, and you just repeat, I love myself, for instance, it will begin to meet those parts of yourself that don't actually feel love. First, they're going to lash out by being repulsed and angry and frustrated and full of hatred. But if you can just tolerate that feeling and go through it, you'll notice that those parts are actually the parts that crave love the most. They're so pissed off. It's like you're so pissed off of not having a father that you want your father more than anybody else, but you don't ever allow yourself to know how badly you want your father because you're so pissed off, and now you're just holding on to anger. Same thing with the light. So in many ways, the people that resist the light are actually the ones that are longing for the light in the deepest, most practical of ways, and they're fucking screaming and crying out in pain.
Yeah. Because the thing that they're resisting is the thing they're fighting, which is in some sense making it stronger than the repression against it. If it's the light, it's like, I don't want to be in the light. I don't want to be in the, well, if you're fighting the light, then you are that. And the expansion of light that will happen by virtue of you letting go will be so tremendous that you will be like, oh my God, I am such a light in the world, because you're resisting it so strongly.
Exactly. 100%. And I think it's very interesting what that actually does to the human psyche. Like, imagine going your entire life and telling yourself you're X, and then you start to experience that whiff that I was speaking of. Dude, like for me, it just completely like fucked up my mind in the best way possible.
But it's funny. I don't like, I feel like the journey for you is so undocumented in some sense. You know what I mean? Because this is my vantage point, and I got stumbled across your material in 2018, where it felt like, from my vantage point, you were already the light. You were already living in the light in 2018. And obviously, I'm sure you have progressed and grown into the light more and more since then. But I guess since you've always quote unquote been ahead of me in terms of the light, I've always felt like you had already quote unquote made it, or there was no documentation of your journey. You know, like, where's the Who is Tej Dosa video? Tiger needs to create one of those when you come down to Austin. I mean, come on. We got to see the actual stories that unfold, you know?
Dude, it's funny you say that. I've interacted with Tiger like throughout the years as well, and then he sent me that documentary, and then he's like, dude, we need the Tej Dosa story. So I'm like, let's run it. I think he's coming to Vancouver in May or June, and then we'll run that. But for me, what I find very interesting is like, you know what's crazy? You know how a lot of people say like your name is your destiny? So I just Googled it recently, but Tej means the light.
Come on. You can't write that. Are you kidding me?
Somebody sent it to me. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But for me, what I noticed was like, from a very early age, I had a very deep connection with the light. Like, it felt like it was fundamental. It felt like it was the only real thing that was here, but it didn't feel like the world knew. So I felt quite alone in actually experiencing that light. And then I kind of abandoned myself and betrayed myself and, just fit in with the world for a very long time. And then I started to actualize the light. And what I noticed about the light is the light. So I'll feel the light and I'll experience the light. Like how I am on this podcast is like how I've been and how I continue to show up. But I noticed the more I experience the light, the more it illuminates all the parts of me that are not free. So I find it very useful to double click on those parts and get curious about, hey, what's going on here? I feel the light. I feel this love. I feel this joy. But this part inside me that may be like, dude, it's crazy. Like recently I've been experiencing myself in the womb.
Oof. Tell me more.
I've been experiencing myself in the womb, and I've been experiencing all the emotions. So for instance, like when I was born, my parents, immigrant parents, and then they were on welfare at the time. And then they were, obviously going through a lot of the struggles that brings. And, it was interesting to say the least. And my dad was quite chaotic at times, right? He could be very abusive at times. So the immediate holding environment in my environment physically, as like even when you're in the womb, your consciousness is being imprinted by your environment in some ways. So for instance, I would experience like, dude, like the stuff that I was experiencing in terms of the emotions and the despair and the grief, and like there's no sense of myself right now. There's no identity, there's no personality that's born, but this is imprinted on my consciousness when I was in the womb. So recently I've been embodying more presence with the support of a teacher, for instance, and actually getting back in touch with those feelings from very early on. And I truly feel like I'm in the womb again.
Wow. What does that open up for you?
What it opens up for me is the deeper I can feel that, the deeper I can hold that. Like, I think the beautiful part about life is you cannot run away from yourself, and you cannot run away from any experience. If you truly want to make it to the other side, you got to go through all the stuff that's in the way. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's the greatest fucking design on earth.
Yeah. I mean, it brings to mind the tweet you had today that I retweeted, which let me pull up real quick because it was so good. It needs to be said, which was what you tweeted word for word. Surrender to life or surrender to your conditioning. Your choice. The latter results in living the same year on repeat. Been there, done that, boring as fuck. The former results in a life of adventure, living on the cutting edge of reality. What a thrill. I mean, it's so true, right? And that's what you're talking about. It's like, if you can rewrite the programming, you can surrender to the reality that is coming, and you're going to go through it no matter what. Or you could choose to live the same life you're already living and being through the same experiences and do the same things because you're unwilling to let go of that conditioning that you have.
Exactly. I remember I was talking to my friend James once, and then he's like, he got a whiff of freedom, and then he also saw all the stuff that's in the way of freedom, and he had opened that door. And once he had that moment, I was like, dude, like, how was it? Like, what was your experience? He's like, bro, I opened the door. Now I realized that, I can either shut the door and act like I never opened it. Or now the only logical response is to walk through this fucking door. Like, once you get that whiff, it's game over. In many ways, you won the game on day one.
Yeah. Do you really think you could just shut the door? Do you think that's really possible?
Yeah. Dude, I think on a deep level, I think if you get a whiff and you shut the door, then your body starts glitching out and you start developing all sorts of malfunctions in your soul and in your biology and in your physical condition.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's where some like diseases come about, like dis-ease of the body, dis-ease of the mind, because you're unwilling to look or unwilling to see what is there that you've already looked at. It's like, come on, bro, let's go. Exactly.
Like, I have a very close friend. He won't mind me sharing this because he's very open with it. But I have a very close friend in real life that was there was a large part of his life that he wasn't looking at. And it's like, deep down, already, but you just don't want to make eye contact with it.
Yeah.
And he let it linger on for years. And I saw the toll that it was taking on him physically. Like, it actually was like a stretch of time where we actually didn't like see each other physically for a while because he was completely in it and like disconnected from everybody. And then eventually he ended up having a stroke.
Wow.
And he's like our age. Right. So like just seeing the ramifications of that in reality it's fucking intense. Like it's so real. But I think it really speaks to now he's thriving because he opened that door and he made eye contact. And once you make eye contact, you realize it's like, it's just bigger in your imagination than it is in reality.
Yeah. And speaking about eye contact from the practical perspective, it's like you look at David Hawkins' map of consciousness, and the higher you are on that map of consciousness, the longer eye contact you hold with human beings. And so as you go more into love, you hold more eye contact. The person who's in courage is holding more eye contact than the person who's in fear. And for yourself with other human beings, and it's also true for you and your problems, quote unquote, that you are going through in your life. So it's like he had the courage to look for the first time, your friend, and then he is in some sense holding eye contact with that thing where when he was in fear, he was not willing to look at, and he was looking away from. So it's like, where are you on the map of consciousness? Think about your eye contact with your problems, with yourself, and also with the world, because other people are just a reflection of your inner world.
Dude, that is fucking brilliant. I never thought of it like that. I never looked at it like that, you know? Throwing a little eye contact reference.
I see what you did there. You're doing some light work out here.
Dude, the light work, holy shit, that was so good. That was so good. But I'm yeah, this is epic. This is exactly what I'm curious about a few things. One,
Yes.
How was that experience? You mentioned that you were meeting some yogi from India recently. How was that?
Oh, dude, I met a saint. I met a saint from India, and it was like a 40-person event. It was just at a house, and it was like there were some songs that were sung, and then he gave a 40-minute or an hour lecture, and then he sung some songs afterwards, and also he rapped like he was Eminem or something. I was like,
he rapped? He
yeah.
rapped?
I wish I had a video to share with you.
I love that.
It was amazing. And he talked a lot about mantras. You know, he was one of the people that reflected mantras. What really stood out to me from the whole experience was universality, meaning like I'd been to church and recently in the past few months, and I felt such a similar sense of, wow, at church they do the same thing. You got the music to start, they have a guy talking about something connected to God, and then they have music to end. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, different religions coming to the same truths, to me, just feels so right. And that's the takeaway I got from it. And it was just so beautiful to feel his presence, to be in his being, to be around so many people who also were operating and loving life and loving and just holding space for love. I went with my friends, Elle and Talia, who I can't wait to introduce you to when you come down to Austin. And the just people there were so wonderful. Like, I met a real estate agent, and I was like, if I ever need a real estate agent, I'm going to this guy, because I feel his presence. I feel his love. I feel his connection to God. So, yeah, man, it was a great experience, and I'm really grateful to have gone.
Dude, it's so interesting. I was talking to one of my friends recently, and then he was like, he's very tapped into this stuff, and he's like, dude, I feel a shift where the currency is changing. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yes.
Right. And he's like, dude, in like the last couple of weeks, I went to this X event, and then I met this X person, and this led to X opportunity, which then led to Y result that I'm not qualified for, that I'm not on paper have anything, there's no way I should be in this room. And what allowed me to be in that room was I was leading with love.
Yes.
And he's like, the currency has shifted. The currency has shifted from money to love.
Chills.
Dude.
Chills,
and
man.
I was like, dude. And he's like, what's running the new world is love. That's the real currency. And like, it can take you places like, that money can no longer take you. And we've entered a new domain. And I was like, dude, like, this is fucking incredible. Like, he's like, yeah, this is like what's going on and what's cooking. Like, the currency has shifted and the world is changing.
I mean, I just got it. The new currency is the name of a book that someone's going to write. And maybe someone listening to this podcast, and maybe me, and maybe you,
dude,
and maybe
you.
all of us. The new currency. Love.
What a big idea. Dude, I love that big idea. My coffee brain is fucking tingling.
The coffee brain has turned on.
Dude, go on. What were you going to say?
Dude, the new currency is love. It really is. Like,
Mhm.
like just the rooms that I feel like we get entered into, right? The people we talk to are just because we love life and we love ourselves. And it's like, what is the most attractive thing, genuinely? Like the person who is willing and actually does love themselves and wants nothing from you.
Exactly.
When do people validate you the most?
Sorry, I jumped in too early. Sorry.
No. Jump. People validate you the most when you validate yourself first. It sounds like such a corny thing, but it's the deepest truth. How is that?
Dude, what you just said about like when you embody love and the person can feel, like this is what I noticed, right? When you embody love and the person can feel that you don't want anything from them, that's when they give you everything.
Yes.
And when you want something, right? It's like this, and there's nothing wrong with wanting something, but like when you want something, like people usually close down and they become much more defensive. So it's been crazy. Like recently, the last 6 months to a year, just like some of the stuff that's been happening and the different types of people that I've been talking to. And I know like you've been doing this on a whole nother level, but it's just like, dude, it's like love got me into this room. Love is the reason this person just spent 3 hours when it was just supposed to be a 30-minute call.
Yeah. People want to feel connected to God.
Exactly.
And
dude, you're nailing it. Dude, everything fucking nailing it. Because you're just like the fucking conduit to allowing that. You're just that bridge in the moment to making that happen.
Correct. And it's just removing the clutter. Like everyone can do it. I genuinely believe everyone can do it. I really do. I hold that. I stand for that for human beings. That you can be a conduit for God too. That you can remove the clutter from your own psyche that maybe was put in front of you just to give you the challenge to remove it. Maybe your mom was really a difficult person to live with. Maybe your dad really didn't like you at all, and you've accepted their beliefs of you as true, or your friends didn't like you growing up, or now you don't like yourself. Let all those be the challenges. Let all of those be the things that the mountains that you're excited to climb. Because you trying to make $1 billion to make sure that your dad loves you, and that's going to be the reason why your dad, you can stop that. You can make $1 billion and your dad can love you, and you can love yourself and or not need your dad to love you and make the $1 billion plus $1 billion. Like, let's do that. Let's play that game. And yeah, it's a different world, right? And I believe and I stand that every human being can be a channel for God and can be love and can be light and can exude peace and joy and presence. I really stand for that for humanity.
Dude, what you just said is what I would tell King Pablo to fucking clip times a million. You could have $1 billion and be love.
Yes. Of course. Of course you can. You think you have $1 billion like Warren Buffett and not like your children? And no shade to Warren Buffett. I love like whatever. I'm happy for you. But like if your children don't love you and you have $1 billion, you lost. And because your children not loving you is a result of you not loving yourself.
Dude, you know what's fucking crazy? Sometimes I have these visuals where it feels like I've been here before, right?
Yeah. This is light work. This is like year 1,000 for Ted Dosa. Are you kidding me?
Dude, it feels like, check this out. It feels like I've been here before, and then I lived this type of life before, a very similar life, and then I died, and then I made it to quote unquote the other side, and then I was just taking inventory of my life after the fact, while opening up to this deeper reality of love and presence that kind of arises if you're open to it after death, I think. And I realized I completely went the wrong way in a previous life. Like I completely missed out on this. Like what you just explained right now of like you could have that, but then if you don't have that love, you lost. Like I truly felt the significance of that land because it feels like I've played that life in a previous life and I've experienced the fucking terror and the sadness and the despair. And I've experienced it in this life too, where through like near death experience or whatever, when I was so lost in the mind and the deeper reality of life starts to reveal itself. And I was like, oh my God, I could have been in touch with this throughout the entirety of my life. And now my life is ending. And I don't even, all I want is to fucking actualize this in my life. Like truly it brought me to my knees and just filled me with the greatest level of sobbing known to man. So I feel the truth in your words, brother.
Yeah. And it points to the fact that, maybe not every human will make this realization, and that's okay. All is well.
Exactly.
Like they'll get there eventually, and I stand for that. I stand for their freedom. Even if they can't see it for themselves.
Exactly, dude. I mean, that's a bar.
One thing that's interesting is too many bars. Too many bars. Let's hit the bar of love.
Oh, I love this. Go on. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I was listening to Tony Robbins and George Janko, I believe, on a podcast they recorded. And George gave Tony a compliment that was a compliment that hit me at such a deep level, because I've never heard love reflected like this precisely. So he said, George is talking to Tony. He's like, what really stood out to me was how every person in your life or every person around you is peace. And what does that reflect about Tony? That reflects that Tony himself is at peace.
Ooh.
And so, yeah. And I was like, wow, what a beautiful way to really remark about someone's life. Right? Like imagine someone had $1 billion and you go around to their house and everybody hates them. Or everyone is not at peace, or everyone's angry, or you're like, dude, your life is bad. Like, I don't want a life like this. Like, your life is not living at the highest version. And so when George said that about Tony's life, it really hit me as such a deep, kind compliment that I look for now, and will have a frame of model to reference. Is like, who are the people in my life? What are they? What is their role, and how are they living? And what about the people in other people's lives? Are those people loving, kind, full of joy, full of peace, full of love? Because if they are, then that means that person themselves is likely feeling that way.
Dude, that's an all-time compliment right there. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best ones I've heard. It reminds me of this line where it's like, it's recommended you keep the company of holy men because like their vibe, their being is contagious and it ripples throughout whoever is around them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's deeply true. It's deeply true. Spend time with holy people and you will become holy. I mean, that's what I found from being with Talia and Elle so often, right? It's like, dude, they were my version of you. But I could only speak to you once every 2 weeks or once a month, with them, I'm speak to them every day, and I can communicate with them, and they could see me and update me on my current character, and to help me understand where I'm not living with love, where I'm having trouble letting go. And it's like finding people like that is just such a blessing. It truly is.
Speak to me more about that dynamic. Like I'm very curious about
yeah.
Like, I love the way it was put. The truth triangle.
Yes.
So it's fucking really.
It's brilliant. You want to find freedom? Just say the truth and just live in the truth. Like, it's really simple. I mean, what happened was with Elle, you could follow her on Twitter at Elle Beecher. She is a brilliant lady who hosts a weekly walk in Austin, Texas. And it's Saturday at 8 a.m. at Banu Coffee on Congress, if you're in Austin and you're listening to this. And what happened was I went on a few of those walks and I enjoyed them. And then I would end up bumping into her. I would walk by myself. And then I'd bump into her on those walks by myself. And we'd end up walking together for hours and hours, just talking about all the stuff that we're talking about right now, as well as how it applies to our own lives and where we are not free. And she was familiar with the podcast, and she was familiar with my day-to-day activities, and she could diagnose me, quote unquote, and help me uncover where I wasn't free. And I could do the same for her. And that was just such a special friendship, that really one that I can't remember the last time I had that was different from you. And it was just I felt so touched to be able to do that so often. And then I did those walks with her for a month that were quote unquote random. And then Talia ended up listening to one of my podcasts with Alex Hormozy, and she really enjoyed it. And she sent me a message about it. And I ended up going on a walk with her on October 15th. And within 5 minutes of walking with Talia, I said, "Oh, you're my mother's daughter. Like, you're my sister." Like, I feel that at such a deep level. And that was 5 minutes of knowing her. And we have literally been inseparable since that walk. Like, just sharing everything about each other's lives, and so close. And her boyfriend, Max, is a great friend of mine. And Max is also the name of my brother. So it's like such a special, like, godlike synchronicity. And yeah, I mean, these two women I'm so grateful for. Like, I wouldn't be who I am today without them. And I'm in awe that they have held me with love and compassion as I've worked through so many of the places where I've struggled to let go of. So, Elle Talia, if you're listening.
I'm curious, what were the areas or the parts which were the most difficult for you to let love into? Definitely one of those questions. Yeah.
I would say that it were the parts of my identity that I was most wrapped up in. So I was most wrapped up in like being a podcaster, right? A podcaster who's trying to sell out Madison Square Garden and posting 3 episodes a week. And it's like, okay, but like, what if you're not a podcaster? and they never, I don't know if they ever explicitly said that, but they definitely implicitly said that. And they definitely held me in a space to remind me that I was more than that. And that, I mean, one moment for sure that was really helpful for me was when Elle said to me, I was telling her that I thought my medium of expression that I was most comfortable in was audio. And she said to me, "Is that really true? Is it really true that your medium is audio?" And I was like, "I don't know, like maybe, like so I'm not sure." And she was like, "I think your medium is live." Like, and I was like, yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's so out of left field. Like, you wouldn't expect that. That's
right. Because the mediums that I'm thinking about are written, video, or audio.
Exactly.
And she's telling me my medium is live. And then, yeah, fuck is right. That's exactly what I thought. and then I'm like, oh my God. Like, people meet me in person and they're like, oh my God, like, they get something extra out of it that they didn't necessarily get from reading my tweets about God is great, right? Like they get something out of it where it's a deeper knowing of God is great. Like, I can exude God is great from my way of being. And I think that comes through in an interaction. And so that helped her say that. And I hit as so deeply true. So that was one thing that I let go of, the identity of a podcaster. It's like, what if my medium is just live? What does that open up for me? Ooh. And so I was hosting runs before that, like the run club that I host on Tuesdays at 7 a.m. in Austin, 4-mile run. I realized, like, oh, part of the reason why this works is because my medium is live. Like, that makes sense. So, yeah, man, that was one that like stands out. And dude, yeah, any thoughts on that?
Dude, that's fucking brilliant. Like, that to me is like, remember when I tweeted that recently? Like, a guide is somebody that shows you what you don't yet have the eyes to see.
Yes.
Like, that to me is like the purest reflection of that. Like, even as you were talking about it, like, I was like, oh, she's probably going to say video, or she's probably going to say something like that. And then when she fucking comes from left fucking field, and right when you hear it, you're like, oh my God. Like, it's just outside the awareness. And then when it comes in, it just hits you so deeply, like, this is it. Like, I didn't have the eyes to see this, but now that you bring this into my awareness, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. And I think it's so remarkable the way that you also make a pivot when you feel something in the depths of your being. An example that I noticed in you, like, this is when I was like, okay, like, first I saw you, like, you know, going down this journey. And then you tweeted something related to the podcast. And this is when I was like, okay, like, now this is opening up to a completely different experience of life. And what it was, because I know how dear the podcast is to you, and I know how hard it is to let go of something that consumes the entirety of one's identity. And when you get praise from it, from the world, right? Yes. It's the most difficult thing in the world to let go of. But when I noticed, it wasn't letting go of the podcast, it was letting go of the how behind the podcast. And you said something which just sent light bulbs in my brain. I was like, okay, it's a fucking wrap. Like, it's truly over now, right? This is what you said. And it's so crazy because this was something that you would always get the most compliments on too. So this is how I truly do, right? Yes. You were like, you know, you were like, a lot of people, like, you would make those videos where people would compliment you on the depths of your research. They'd be like, dude, like, you're where the fuck did you find this information, right? Like, it would be truly remarkable. And then you tweeted something where you're like, you know, what I realized was it's not the research the people are actually into. What I realized was, like, now when I do podcasts, I don't do research. I just show up and I embody presence and I just hold space and I just embody love. And I was like, okay, now you've entered a whole nother fucking game. It's fucking game over. That was the tweet. Once I read it, I was like, okay, it's a fucking wrap, because it truly speaks to, on a very deep level, letting go of the conditioned identity of Danny and opening up to, quote unquote, the real.
Yes. And it's so well said. And it's such a good reflection. I'm so grateful for you pointing that out, because I forgot about that. And I forget about everything because I'm trying to live and am living here now to the best of my abilities. But it's so true. Like, what is the thing that you get praised the most for? And can you not do that thing? That is a great idea and test for your level of letting go. Right?
Fuck. That is fucking bang on, bro. Truly. Yeah. Truly. Because in that identity is your entire idea of the world, and all your beliefs about what you believe yourself to be is wrapped up in that core identity. So when you let that go, you're essentially letting your conditioned world go.
Yes.
It's very deep. Go on.
It's surrender. It's just pure surrender.
Yeah. Like, even as like a practical example, like, I had a friend who his identity was really just wrapped up in the gym, right? From a very early age. And then he developed some health related problems, which prevented him from going to the gym for years. And then he's like, dude, I feel like I don't even know myself anymore.
It's like, dude, you're so much more than the gym, baby. And it's hard to, and it's so hard to realize that when you are looking at yourself and you're like, dude, I look good. You know, like, it's such an important thing for people to sit with themselves with if they are on this journey. It's like, okay, what is the thing that you excel at the most? Now, take it away from yourself. Who are you?
Dude, it's so remarkable. The reason why what you did hit me so hard was because usually life is constantly trying to expose you to all the areas that you're not free. So it shines light on those areas if you're aware, right? But in your case, usually life forces you to let go of the identities that you hold to be so dear. And that's what gives rise to a midlife crisis, for instance, right? But in your case, it was so crazy because you consciously started to let it go, which was, that to me, there's something very deep and very special about that. And that to me represented the depths of your being in terms of how turned on you were by God, essentially, like how deeply it penetrated the core of your being.
Yes.
That you did that consciously.
Well, absolutely. And the fact that Elle and Talia were there, you know, like that's why I realized how important coaching is, because I was doing this for Elle and Talia in my own ways. And the fact that I could see that just by virtue of them being there was allowing me to let go in a deeper and deeper way. Because I was like, listen, I've got my friends. Like I know that I am loved through not being a podcaster. And so if they can love me, and they can love me regardless of the fact that I do research or I don't, okay, I can love me regardless of the fact that I do research or I don't. And so, and then I don't need them. You know, like that's why coaching is so important, is because it's what you did for me. It's like you showed me, okay, you can do 75 hard for 75 days straight because you believe in me. Okay, now I can do it on my own and I don't need you to do it. And so that is the benefit of coaching. That's the benefit of someone believing you. That is someone holding space for you, right? That is holding space. That is saying, I have not only enough for myself, I have enough for you too. And that's true when you did 75 hard with me. That's true when Talia and Elle said, your medium is live. That's true when people are literally just in a conversation with you and they are asking questions about your experience. It's like, it's so deep, man. It's really so deep. And yeah.
The parallels also are like kind of like very interesting for me. Like the parallels between podcasting, like what you were doing, and coaching. Right? There's something so deep there that's like intertwined. Because I remember the way that the podcast initially started for you, you were just like jumping on calls with people, which is kind of similar to what you're doing now.
Yes. I haven't stopped thinking about that, Tej. It's the purest representation of the thing that I was doing that I enjoyed to begin with.
Exactly. Dude, that's literally a full circle.
Yes. It is.
But I'm curious, how's that been like how's that been for you? Like that you know, opening up to more of the taking on the role of the guide. How's that been?
It's been 1 month, and it has been such a rich month full of transformation, of joy, of helping people. The messages that I get are so remarkable that I say to myself, oh my God, thank God I became free so that I could experience this. You know, like, thank God I became free, because I didn't want to be a coach because I looked at other coaches and judged them. Like, come on, like this makes it all so worth it. The fact that I can have these conversations with people and they could genuinely be changed and their actions could change and it could have ripple effects to their family and their friends and the people in their life. And it's like, wow, I wish I had the courage to hire a coach 3.5 years ago. Wow. I wish that everyone has the courage to hire a coach right now. Me or someone, I don't care. Like, do it. Please do it. Like, I see these transformations. I've yet to meet one person who couldn't benefit from this in some way, because there are places where I'm not free. I need to hire a coach. Where can I hire a coach? If someone's listening to this right now and wants to be my coach, let me know. If you think you're 1 hour and 12 minutes into this and you feel like you resonate with me, I'm looking to hire a coach. So, or a guide, as Tej would say.
To me, like, whether you call it a coach or a guide, like, to me, you're a fucking guide.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to, the distinction between a coach and a guide, what is that in your vantage point?
Dude, like what you just said, like I judge coaches the same way. Like I've had personal experiences where I felt like when I made the most quantum breakthroughs, it was like a coach would kind of tell me what I already knew already, and he would just provide me, or she would just provide me with accountability, which was super useful. But a guide would illuminate the parts of the map that I don't yet see and show me those parts and then help me navigate the map. So I was completely in a new territory, right? It was like you spend your entire life seeing life through black and white, and then somebody shows you color. And you've never known that color existed before this. So that was the distinction for me. But like, even like from the jump, like what you've been doing, I was like, that's a guide in disguise. He may have to use the label coach for the world, but that's a guide in disguise. But
yeah. But also it's like, what if we didn't judge coaches?
Exactly. I mean, that's the real thing, right? I need to stop judging.
That's what I learned from my experience. I was like, wow, I was fooling myself in thinking that coaches were inherently bad in some way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I'm very curious, right? Because I noticed you also said something like since you did the Posner pod, you felt like it opened up something deeper in the pod and you guys went somewhere else, right? It's like that Rumi quote, meet me at that field that's beyond the mind and there we can like play.
Oh, so good.
So
So
I
good.
yeah, I feel like you went there with the Posner pod, and I also feel like sometimes with other guests, you're trying to go there. Like you're there and you're trying to bring them there.
Yes, yes. And I think that that's such a good reflection on your part. And also, it just opened me up to what was possible. It opened me up to like, oh, this is the new standard. You know, like
Mm,
when you meet a woman, and you're like, oh, like this is the new standard for what I could accept for myself because this woman
mm,
is so amazing.
mm-hmm,
Like that's how the poster pod felt, where it was just like
mm,
everything else I had experienced up to that point was not was not that level of joy and freedom and love and expansion and helpful to people. I mean, I was literally at the grocery store yesterday and the cashier was like, what do you do? And I was like, I have a podcast. And then we went into like, oh, I want to listen to it. I was like, start with the Mike Posner episode. That's the best one. Like, go there, go there. And then after that, Tej Dosa. But like, start with so. Oh,
dude. I found that very interesting. So like when you made that when you had that realization where it became the new norm and then you also had the experience of like, you know, like you could sense like you're in that place and you're not forcing anybody, but you're kindly holding out your hand for that person to meet you in that space and to run a real conversation from that place, right? And I think that's what a lot of people resonated with you for. But then I also realized like once you had that insight, I was like, okay, this is naturally going to give rise to some sort of coaching related thing because if you think
yeah.
about it, your love is to meet people in that place. And then if you're running a podcast and that person is not in that place, that's great, but it's naturally going to inspire your heart to help people get to that place so you can have more episodes like the Posner part, which are the new norm.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I realized that podcasting is not the best vehicle for truth.
Ooh.
Podcasting is not the best vehicle for truth because if you are not free, and even if you are free, there might be some parts of you that don't want to be explored live in front of everybody, in front of people, in front of 1,000, 10,000 people who you don't know. That's a completely understandable phenomenon of like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not in that place often to discuss your lack of freedom because you don't even want to bring it up to yourself, let alone the host, let alone
Fuck.
the people listening or watching. So if that is the case, then it is my responsibility to do this with people in their closet, like to meet them where they're at. Like if somebody had a
Ooh.
dirty closet, you wouldn't be like, yo, let's broadcast this dirty closet to 10,000 people. It's like, no, that would be the silliest thing in the world. They'd feel more shame, potentially more guilt. I mean, the truth is, if they actually said it to 10,000 people and showed the people their dirty closet, they'd be free, but they might not want to. And so give them the choice to do that. And I think that's been a huge realization for me is like you get to more freedom of holding somebody in a space that is just you and them, right? Like you and your best friend talking is going to be you and your best friend talking to a billion people potentially. May not be if it's me and you. But but you know what I mean, right?
Dude, that is such a powerful distinction. And the way you broke that down, what a compassionate act to leave the stage of society and to meet people in the closet where they're hiding in shame, in fear, in guilt, in private. What a compassionate act you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And also, it's a no-brainer. It doesn't even, and it's not like I have to have one or the other. And it's also like, it's like you can't not do that when you hear some of the stories that I hear by virtue of
Mm.
being a guide or coach, right? Like some of these stories are so like they've been in the closet for so long and they're everyday normal people. And it's like, okay, like this story needed to be out. You needed to say this story to someone. And it wasn't going to be because I was going to do a podcast with you. Like, this just needed to come out. And you needed to be held with love. And I mean, dude, people are telling me, like, multiple times, I think 3 or 4 times, someone has said to me, I've been to a therapist for X number of years, and one session with you did more than X number of years with the therapist.
Ooh.
How
Dude.
can I not? What comes up for you when you hear that?
You know what comes up for me is like chills for once. Like, it makes me speechless. That's why I'm showing the fuck up right now. But, I notice, like, for me, when it would come to topics of like therapy, like one time I tweeted like the getting a fresh haircut every 2 weeks is the only therapy I need. And like somebody was like, dude, why would you say this? Why would you say this? But for
That's
me,
an edgy tweet. That's an edgy tweet for Tesh.
Yeah, it's definitely for my character. What I noticed was with typical therapy, it would be like you need to put God into therapy.
Yeah.
And with God is just a label. Like, you can use whatever label you want, but like not as a belief, but as an actual experience. And that to me is like holding that space for somebody, right? Holding that space and being fearless in whatever arises in them. You're not going to shun away, and you're going to maintain presence. Like, that's what people are really looking for.
Yeah.
They're looking for, if I show Danny Miranda the deepest parts of myself that are full of shame, what I'm actually seeing is Danny going to wince? Is he
Right.
going to flinch?
Right.
Is he going to flinch? And if Danny doesn't flinch, because in childhood I showed these parts of myself and my parents flinched. So ever since then, I've been hiding from myself. I've been hiding these parts because somebody flinched when I had the courage to show these. And now the message that I got was it's not okay to show these. And in return, they keep me prisoner. So if I have a conversation with Danny and I feel him out and I can sense that he's a loving presence and all, he just wants the best for me, and it goes there and I reveal a piece of myself that's connected to the deeper parts, I'm checking to see how Danny responds to that. If Danny flinches, then I'm going to go back to hiding. But if Danny doesn't flinch, oh my God, my entire world just fucking changed.
Correct. And brother, I've been told some stories that would make you speechless or could make a version of Tej speechless, and I haven't flinched, and I've done the opposite. I've loved, right? And it's like when somebody is loved for the thing that they felt shame around, what are they supposed to do? They got to rewrite their whole story in that moment.
Dude.
And so what an ultimate test. Dude. What an incredible test of how free are you really? Well, let's see. Like, let's give a story that would have made a version of you flinch 5 years ago, of me flinch, 10 years ago. And let's bring that forward. And then you don't flinch and you're like, oh, I'm free here. I'm really free here.
Dude, this is fucking it.
Yeah. And this is also another thing. The reason why I'm getting that comment about the therapist is because somebody can only free you to the extent that they themselves are free.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to get at.
Yeah. I think this was really helpful for me to look at with David Hawkins's map of consciousness. It's like, if somebody is acting in reason and they're your therapist, they can only get you to reason, to get you to love, because they're not exuding it and living in love themselves. If somebody is operating in courage, if the therapist themselves is operating in courage, which is level 200, then they can only get you to be a courageous person. If somebody is acting in love, which is 500, then that therapist can get you to love. And the difficult thing about this is, according to David Hawkins, 4% of the world's population is living above 500 in a state of love. And so the odds of you having a therapist that is living in love or unconditional love to help you in some sense get to that place by virtue of you going to that is very low. The level of therapists that are acting in peace, like, it's got to be a very small number, right? Which is 600. So yeah, man, it's a special thing. What's coming up?
Dude, earlier we said the currency shifted from money to love, but now credentials have also shifted.
Yes. Yes. Because, dude, I have zero credentials. I have no, and you know what's so, I have no formal training in coaching or guiding. I haven't got any certifications. I don't have anything. I have peace in my mind, body, and soul, and people can feel it. and
what university do I go for that, bro?
The Peace University. You go to Lightwork, actually. You go to Lightwork University. And it's really cool hearing friends reflect back to me the fact that you're doing this coaching and you're doing these retreats and you don't have any certifications is really inspiring to me. It's really allowing me to want to live more in my voice and own myself and validate myself rather than have some organization validate me. And dude, that is the deepest truth. And if you really think about what I'm doing, is I'm not waiting for permission to someone to tell me what to do. I am just doing it because I know in my heart of hearts it is correct. Where in your life are you, or can you, or where in your life is life inviting you to do the thing in your heart of hearts that is correct, that you are putting off because you are waiting for someone else to tell you this is the right thing to do? Oh man, that's it, right? That's life. Life is owning the parts of yourself and allowing yourself to validate yourself in every moment, in every situation, every action. And where are you not doing that? Where are you lying to yourself? And let's bring those to the forefront and let's start acting differently. Because when you know the truth, you can't help but act differently.
When you know the truth, you can't help but act differently.
Right? If you know love makes you feel better than fear, like if you know that at a deep level, you eventually will go towards love. Like there's no other way for you to operate it. Like, yeah, you might be fearful in one moment, but you like laugh at that in the next moment because you're like, I am love. I am peace. I am joy. I am God. Oh, what a beautiful journey.
I'm curious. Does how frequently does the quote unquote old version of Danny arise in your experience?
That's a great question. I would say I'm still getting used to this version of Danny, and I just like noticed in the past like month or two, like an even deepening of it. I noticed last night some fears came to mind and some fears about a current situation where I'm not free to share in this moment publicly because some of the details are still unfolding. And I noticed myself projecting about the future and living in the future and living in, okay, what if this happens? What about this? And so what did I do? I called Talia. We spoke for an hour. I then meditated for 45 minutes. I felt way better. I took a shower, went to sleep, meditated for 45 minutes this morning, and I was like, oh, like that's not a problem anymore. The only thing I got to worry about is right now. And right now there's nothing to worry about. So I would say that it is so much less frequently, and only when new situations arise that are situations that I've never dealt with and are just like, what is happening here? Like this. Yeah.
What do you think it's about new situations that creates more of that familiar experience to arise?
I think it is about new situations. I think that's capital L life giving you a new circumstances to realize like you're not free in this place. That's what I think it is. I think life will will present you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. As the wise Peter Crone once said, life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. That is true for Tej. That is true for Danny. That is true for everyone listening. And so if you feel really free, if you're one of the few people walking around this earth feeling very free, I've got some great news for you. There is some situation that you are uncomfortable with that life will present you with. And so that new situation is there to unlock your freedom. And so I recently came across one of those situations in the past 4 or 5 days. And I'm like, I'm not free here. And like, I can't wait to see what unfolds.
It's so interesting, the parallel between freedom and being fearless. Like, what I mean is true freedom is being okay with whatever arises, right? I was talking to David Sutcliffe recently, and he was sharing the experience he had when he got first introduced to, when he went to that retreat. And then it was like, the prompt was, I'm going to fuck this up, but the prompt was like, don't hold back. Everything is allowed, and just completely allow yourself to get into whatever emotion that you're feeling, right? And then obviously, like, don't hurt anybody, but like, just go to the extremes. This is a safe place. And it was like over the course of 7 days. And he was sharing with me how he went deep into experiencing murderous rage. And he's like, as I was experiencing murderous rage, I made eye contact with the facilitator, to go back to our eye contact reference. I made eye contact with the facilitator, and he's like, I saw no fear in her eyes as I was experiencing murderous rage. And I was full of, like, you know, like a normal person, quote unquote. Of course, we know normal people aren't really normal, but a normal person would flinch. They would be like, oh, like, what's David going to do? Like, he's going to be unpredictable. Like, what if he hits somebody, or what if he lashes out, or like, what if that happens? Am I in threat? Am I in danger? Right. And he's like, the teacher or the facilitator didn't flinch. She continued to embody presence. Like, she's seen this before. Wow. Right. And that to me was so inspiring. And he's like, dude, like, the reason I really encourage this type of work is because it makes you fearless in a way where you're okay with whatever arises more and more. And if you're not okay with it, beautiful. It's a new opportunity to be okay with it in the future when it arises, if you can handle it now. Right. So the parallel between freedom and being fearless, like, normally, like, for instance, like, earlier on in my journey, I was trying to control my experience and make it go one way because I was afraid of it going the other way.
Yes.
But now it's like, what do you want to happen? Whatever God wants. What does God want? Whatever the fuck is happening.
Retweet. Smash that retweet button.
And then that to me, and if something happens, and, you know, it brings up a lot of stuff in me, then I'm like, okay, that's interesting. This is a sign that this is causing my system to glitch the fuck out, because there's something here that it's hitting. And now this is a beautiful opportunity to release this. So in the future, if I'm ever in a situation like this, I can be at least 1% more fearless.
Yeah. And I also want to say, I feel high right now. Like, I'm on zero substances. Zero. I mean, I'm drinking water. I recently cut out coffee, and I'm interested to see how that experiment goes. I've not drank coffee for the past 5 days for the first time in a long time. And I feel so high right now that I just had to point that out. And I think part of the reason for that is because the synchronicity or the full circle connection for the facilitator holding space for David in that moment to be as he is, and what my experiences have been holding space for people to be as they are, talking about the experiences that they didn't want to look at and how similar that really is. And how really so much is given when you are just able to hold space for people without judging them. And like, so much is transmitted. So much is, it's okay for you to feel that way. And I love you, even though you feel that way. Like, that is so powerful. And that is what we so desperately needed, or felt as if we needed, from our parents when we were growing up in specific situations. And the very things that we are trying to heal are those things that our parents said were not okay.
Mm,
Wow. 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 Wow.
dude, just letting that sink in.
But I mean, I don't know where that came from. So, right? Isn't that like if you have judgment towards something or someone, well, that's the thing you need to heal. That's the thing you need to become okay with. And those, you wanted your parent to say it was okay for you to do something that way. You wanted your parent to say, I hold you with love and compassion, even though you think this or do this, but they didn't. And then you repeated that pattern over and over and over and over again until someone did say, it's okay that you did that thing or that you lived that way or you were that person. It's completely fine. I love you anyway. And then something opens up. Presence opens up. And wow, what a beautiful thing it is to do some light work.
Ooh. You know what you said earlier about the therapist, when we were talking about the therapist, and it's the depth of the therapist, how free the therapist is the
Yes.
correlation to how free, how much freedom they can open up in you. It's really the same thing with our parents, right?
Yes.
Like our parents were at a certain level, of course, to no fault of their own as a result of various experiences. So even like what I notice is, this was like my experience, right? I was feeling a lot of that light, a lot of that love, a lot of that unconditional love, a lot of that just pure like bliss and ecstasy over the human experience, even as like a little kid. And in order for a parent to feel that, or in order for a parent to mirror your feelings and show you that it's okay to even experience the positive side of life, the light, they also have to be in touch with that. In order to be in touch with that, they have to first go through what's in the way of that, right? The anger, the frustration, maybe regrets over even having kids, like all these feelings that are there, probably in a deep way, not in a fucking cookie cutter way, but whatever is there, it's okay. And they have to feel that. And if they don't feel that, it's fine. It's not like out of judgment, but if they don't feel that, then when a kid comes and they're full of love and light and pure joy at the sheer existence of life, the parent won't be able to meet you in that place. So the kid's going to think, fuck, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like something's wrong with me. And like, I need to change. I need to fit in. I need to suppress this love. I need to shut the lights down so I can dim myself down and be okay, especially because the biological drive is you're dependent on your parents to essentially survive at that age. Yeah. Right? So it's very interesting. Like in many ways, for me, in one way, the way that I think about it is like we have to parent ourselves. And then also when you work with the coach, it's like you can call him a coach, you can call him a guide, you can call him a therapist, right? But essentially they're like taking on that role of a parent and showing you, because the parts of us that feel that way are usually very young.
Yeah.
And that's where the initial impression was formed. So it's very, just a parallel between the two was fascinating for me to shed light on in this moment.
I love it. I love it so much. And it really is remarkable to understand that how many of our beliefs we just take on from other people. Mm-hmm. It's like, and in the negative, in the darkness and in the light, it's true both ways. Like we don't know anything else but to take on the beliefs of other people. And that's okay. Like you learned a language. That language is not something you created. Those were beliefs from other people that now you live in, right? It's like the language itself is other people. So everything you exist in is from other people. And so the mission of life in some sense is to orient yourself towards the light, towards people who are living in the light, towards people who can hold your darkness with love, because you're going to end up living in the reality that those people create. But the truth is you create that experience first by saying to yourself, I only associate with people in the light, or I only associate with content that is in the light. I only listen to music or affirmations, and just live in that, breathe in that, and see what happens. I wrote I love myself over and over and over again. Somehow I'm free. I think I think there's a reason for that. I said, I love you, God, over and over and over again. And I became more free. And I existed with more energy that instilled more love in more people's eyes and more people's souls. I feel it every day. It's so real, I can't even tell you. So what would happen if you started doing that? I mean, what would happen if you just said for 5 minutes a day, I love you, God, over and over and over again? Like, what might transpire? That is operating towards the light. And like I've said before, David Hawkins' map of consciousness, that has shown me so clearly what is light and what is dark. So clearly. Because I can calibrate things. I can see them. Maps of Consciousness by David Hawkins, my favorite book of the year thus far. And it has transformed the way I think about everything. And so, yeah, man, I think it's the most important thing we can do on this floating rock in space is orient ourselves towards the light and help other people do the same.
You know what's so remarkable is like, I think problems get a bad rap, right? Because if you think about it, let's go back to the previous version, or many iterations of Danny. And Danny was experiencing, as all of us, like a lot of various different problems. And for me, problems are an invitation that, if solved, they almost allow you to actualize your true mission.
Yes.
Because then you can meet other people that are currently in that place and share with them from a real place what helped you go from darkness to light. So all of the darkness that we could classify as problems, 5 years, 6 years, whatever it was ago, it's like those were really invitations for growth. And because you experienced that darkness, now when you're on a fucking coaching call and somebody is also in darkness, you don't fucking flinch because you experienced the darkness. Because you solved your own problem, because you went there with yourself. So for me, it's like, what are all the problems in my life? These are invitations. My mission is hidden in my problems.
What are some of the most recent problems you've solved that you're excited to help other people with? Or excited to give God through helping people solve those problems?
Early on, it was like, first I was just trying to solve my own problems, which was just to make money, right? So that was like the first problem that I was trying to solve at like 14. I was like, dude, I just need to live on my own terms. I can't do this the way people do it. I just, the similar what you said in the documentary where you were like, I just didn't want to work for anybody. Like that.
Nothing wrong with that. That's true.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's
exactly,
true, brother, at the deepest level.
Yeah. So for me, like that was the initial problem. And then once I felt like comfortable enough to like where I felt like I solved that on some level, then it was like, okay, then I got the external life that I wanted, right? Everything that I wanted was there, but internally I still felt the same, more or less. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like I got everything the society tells me that I should get. I have it. Now what? Now I feel like a certain way, and like, sure, like, the lifestyle is great, but internally I still feel like a little boy, and I don't really feel like I've actually grown or developed in a real way. So then my journey became, okay, how can I solve this problem? And naturally, through the solving of that problem, my content on Twitter started to shift in 2018. Because I was done with, like, to me, I could tweet about copy and marketing all day, but it's like, it's cool, but now I'm onto a new problem.
And the very nature that you had solved that problem allowed me to, I was solving the problem of business at that time. And that it was my entry point because you had solved the business problem before and also were solving the internal problem. And I got both. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Like whatever problems I'm solving, I'm tweeting about them live because that's what's happening for me.
Me too. Me too. We don't know any other way.
Exactly. So like now what I'm curious to solve is like, I've been opening up to this presence, right? And in a very deep way. And I feel like I'm curious to solve not the problem, but the experience of like, it's not a fluke that this has started to happen in our 20s, for instance. With quote unquote, if all goes well, or if all doesn't go well, all is still well. There's a large bulk of life ahead of us.
Yes.
And I feel like there's a new way of living that's more so aligned with truth, that is slowly actualizing through us in a deep way, in a real way. And for me, it's The experiment is like, I already know what it feels like to build a business in the typical conditioned world. I already know how it feels like to conduct calls in a typical conditioned world. I already know how it feels like to be in a relationship with somebody in the typical conditioned world. That's fine. It's cool. Now let's try something else. Let's see what God wants to do. So for me, it's like the problem I'm trying to solve isn't really a problem because I have zero idea what the fuck God wants to do until God fucking does it.
Yes. Yes. And then you witness it unfold and you are blown away and forced to let something go
Exactly.
that you previously held as it couldn't be this way.
Exactly. Dude, it's sometimes scary how freeing freedom truly is. Like it's Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You
I'm
also
so grateful.
texted me you had a story you wanted to share.
I'm not free in this place, Tej. I'm I'm free in 99%
No.
of places, but I can't share the story publicly yet because it's it's I'm working through it.
No, I feel it. Dude, it's even freeing to acknowledge the part of you that isn't free. There's freedom in
Yes.
that.
Yes. Instead of hiding it, right?
Exactly. Like you just liberated that and that's like in the light now. And then it's instead of
Yeah.
whatever, like whatever the response would have been.
Yeah. And I'm not completely there to share it publicly, and I don't know if it's appropriate to do so either. But yeah, I'm not free in this place, and I'm excited to see what unfolds as a result of that.
Dude, that's such a good testament to like everything that we've been talking about and the work that you're
Yeah.
doing. I'm curious about the how you're feeling going into the in-person retreat later this month. I mean later next month in February.
Oh my God. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to bring this to more people. I mean, I've done some processes with Talia that have really impacted me at a deep level. And, I believe she charges thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars, to do these process with people that people will be getting from less than she charges. And it's just like, what a blessing it is, because I know how much one of these processes has impacted me. And just to live in the state of truth with other men who are living in the state of truth or are trying to me is such an exciting thing. Um, I just know what happens when you bring people together. In it just creates people who are on the path coming together. I experienced it with Talia and Elle. I experienced it with the Run Club, and I experienced it with you. It's just like it creates more freedom. It creates more love. It creates more truth because you see someone else sharing something, and you're like, oh wait, they shared that. I can share it too. And
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm really excited to host that container, and I'm really excited to see people's transformations and changes by virtue of attending this February 23rd through 25th. So, yeah, man, should be a fun time. And the current name for it is Be Light.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. So, it is very much in line with our theme today of doing the light work. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm
It's gonna
so
be a
curious.
new journey.
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting because like regardless of what somebody brings into the space, based on their subjective personal experience, there's a thread that connects that experience to a universal emotion that we all have on some level,
Yes.
right? So it's very interesting to create that space and invite people to go there in whichever way they go there. And then essentially what you're doing in some ways, it's like you're getting like as a facilitator, you're getting acquainted with those parts in yourself that the other person is experiencing shame or grief around. And because
Yep.
you're so loving to those parts in yourself, the other person feels that. And in that process, freedom occurs.
That's exactly right. And I needed to get to the place where I could love all the parts of myself that I love to hold that for someone else and to hold that not just
Exactly.
for someone else, but for 12 other people.
Dude,
right?
yeah, exactly. Like I don't think people realize like how hard that is, but not hard in the typical sense, because it's not like you were doing it, like you're not consciously like fucking doing anything, but like the level of work and the level of courage to face the truth in your own life so you can get to a point where you can be that mirror in some ways for other people. It's remarkable. And I think society is going to start to value that a lot more, and they're going to start to appreciate that the same way they may appreciate somebody that's worth $1 billion.
Yeah. I'm it's harder to measure right now. There's like no one before David Hawkins' map of consciousness, I was like, what is happening? Am I losing my mind or am I gaining God? Like what is actually
dude,
happening?
Pause. Am I losing my
mind
or am I gaining God?
Oh, so good.
Wow.
So good.
Wow. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to pause.
No, I'm so happy you did. That was great. And so what David Hawkins' map of consciousness did was I was able to put at every point in my life, every year, I calibrated my level of consciousness. And I could see so clearly that when I started drinking alcohol, my consciousness went down. And then I could see that when I started meditating, my consciousness went up. And then I could see that I stopped meditating after I'd been meditating for 2 years and my consciousness stayed the same. And then I could see that my consciousness rised again after I continued to meditate. And so when I did all these calibrations and had these numbers, I said to myself, it is real. And I was living in reason, which is the 400th level for the past couple of years. And so living in that reason level, everything is about thinking. Intelligence is the highest virtue. Being smart is the best. And if you make a lot of money, that's great in the world of intelligence. And it's like, what's higher? What's higher than that? And it's like, it's love. Being kind and loving somebody is better than being smart. Everyone knows that. That's a deep truth that everyone knows and feels at a deep level. And I realized what I needed to do in order to get to that point of love was to let go of so much of the things that I was holding on to. The research of the podcast, coming from a wealthy family, or being insecure about that, thinking that coaches were less than, like all these things that I'm putting in quotation marks, but in actuality, they were just getting in my own way of being free and of being love, because I was judging that within myself. And then I said to myself, wait, do I care about how someone looks? Like, does how somebody looks, is that the end all be all for how I view that person? The answer was no. Okay. How much money somebody makes or how much money somebody comes from, do I judge that person? No, I don't. Okay. Well, then why am I judging myself by those standards? And that was really helpful for me. And so I've let go of reason, and not completely. Obviously, I'm trying to do smart things and whatever, and try to exist in the world in an intelligent way to the best of my abilities. Sure. But I'm also above that, and more truthfully, I'm operating and making sure that what I'm doing is coming from a place of love, of unconditional love, ideally, and of peace. And I feel like what I'm doing right now is coming from peace. And so, yeah, man, that's been my journey. And I forgot your question, but
you answered it in the most beautiful ways. Whatever the question was, I forgot to.
Exactly.
I'm curious, what's the distinction for you on experiential level between peace and love? Like you mentioned earlier, where peace feels like all is well. How does love feel?
Well, love to me was more excited. Like it was this feeling of like I can't wait to tell you this, and oh my god, this is amazing. I want to give you love. That feeling. It wasn't like I need to give you love. Like I need to it was just like the excited boyish energy of feeling love. Like That's how it came across, and that's how I felt it at a deep level. And then literally, Tej, in the last like 3 days, I feel the difference. It's peace. It's it it is the same love that's there, but with the knowing, the understanding that I don't need to give it to you right now in the way that I want to. It's like maybe that's not what you need. Maybe you don't need to be loved on. Maybe it's deeper than that. Maybe me just existing in this moment is giving you peace, is allowing you to come to a realization. And yeah, I think that's the difference for me. What about you? How do you experience the difference between peace and love?
I notice peace feels like the night sky to me. It feels there's an immense holding. Even in this moment, like it just feels like the opposite of peace to me feels like when you're free falling and you're scared you're going to hit the ground. And then with peace, you realize there's no ground that you could ever hit. So you're just free floating in the presence of God infinitely for eternity. That makes me peaceful. And then love, for me, it has like different flavors. Love for me, sometimes it feels there's more joy in it, where I feel like a radiating sun. And a radiating sun shines its light on everybody and everything. It doesn't like judge, like, oh, I'm not going to give that person sun because he's evil and that person's good. I'm going to give him a little bit more sun, unless you live in Vancouver, of course.
Come to Austin, bro. It's inviting you with joy.
And then it's like a radiating sun. And then there's other types of love. The way that it impacts me is it feels like love melts away all boundaries. And there were never any boundaries, but my mind created boundaries. And the more that I feel this love, the more that I couldn't tell you if I'm located in my body or if I'm located outside my body. I have no recollection of that. It just feels like there's boundless love here. And other flavors of love feel like a tender, healing, compassionate, minty flavor that soothes the pain and heals the pain. Like imagine the most loving, caring, devoted. Feminine energy to me is very similar to this. Like, you know, whenever you're around feminine energy, it just feels very healing. And like I just got restored. And sometimes I can sense that in myself with the compassion, where it feels similar to that type of pure feminine energy that kind of houses and stores whatever the experience of life is in that moment. So those are like some of the different flavors that I experienced. But the commonality between love and peace and joy and strength and willpower is whenever I experience this, I feel like I am love, I am peace, I am strength, and it feels like I've opened up to a new reality where the character isn't there in the same familiar, static way. And it just feels like there's love, and reality is made out of love, and it's all love, which then in return feeds into the peace of it can only be well because it's only love, which sounds like, I know how that sounds to a lot of people.
No, it sounds perfect to me.
Yeah. That was like, dude, it's so funny. Like when I say these things, like because I've written so much copy, like I sense the objection that people are gonna have, and then I say something to counteract that objection to like ease it, right? Because copywriting is just like brainstorming objections and addressing them. But like, yeah, like obviously once you feel it, you realize like all is well, and all was always well, even when you thought all wasn't well.
It's interesting. I feel the difference between peace is more masculine,
Uh,
and love is more feminine. Do you also feel that difference?
yeah, like peace feels like it's a very grounding type of
Yeah.
energy or like presence, whatever you want to call it. And it feels like the reason you're so peaceful is because like you can throw the kitchen sink at you and you won't flinch. So even as
Yeah.
a coach, right? It's like you're so grounded and you're essentially one with presence, which
Yeah.
allows you to be in a state of peace. And it feels very masculine, grounded, powerful, insane power and peace. And then love feels like, yeah, like I've had days where I felt like I'm walking on air, and it feels like there's like a flamboyantness to love sometimes. And I notice
Yeah.
the more you feel love, you start to almost speak in a poetic way without trying to speak in a poetic way. Like all the bars you were dropping, for instance, right? That's fucking poetry in motion. That's the heart in motion. That's love in motion.
Yeah.
So
Open heart, open mind, open soul.
exactly,
It's interesting how God, you start to feel God at the level of the 500s,
dude.
because
Yeah.
that's what really hit me with David Hawkins's work, because I wrote that piece on I wrote that piece about finding God on December 6th, and I think I was calibrating at 499 or in the high 480s or 490s when I wrote that. And so it makes me realize the truth of, if you can feel God when you're approaching the 500s, or you're in that realm. That was dude, I've never been thinking that God was like, I never had a deep knowing of God being real
Uh-huh.
until December or November or October of this year, of last year, 2023. And so the truth of that really stuck out to me when I was able to look at the map of consciousness. And so the emotion, or the states that you're describing, love, joy, peace, those are all what David Hawkins calls the spiritual realm. And it's like, that's the times you feel God, when you're operating in that frequency, if you're operating in that place. So it's really cool how it all ties together, and you could actually understand some of this stuff on the physical plane.
Dude, like what you just said, like to me, I can't get over what you just said, because like if people, or like if I, like a previous version of myself, truly took in what you just said, to me it's a complete mind fuck. Like
Yes.
think about it. For instance, I had a very similar experience, right? Where you like in this moment, what I realized, like as you start to, open up more and more, you realize that it's not God that turned its back on you. God is always here.
Yeah.
God has always been here.
Yeah.
It's just these goggles that were conditioned over my eyes that prevented me from seeing and experiencing God in this
Yeah.
moment. Right. So
Yeah.
to me, that's a huge, if let's just take that to be true. That's a hypothesis, right? So in this moment, God is real. God is here. The presence of God is here. Right.
Yes.
And now if we also factor in the map of consciousness, for instance, it's like God is here, but I just don't have the eyes to see. It doesn't mean God's not here. It just means I don't have the eyes to see, because I may be in, an X level. And I think there's like, it is what it is. It's fine. Not better, not worse. But let's just take that to be a reality. Then to me, what's so exciting is like, dude, God is the absolute highest. It is the greatest potential for man to actualize. And now you're telling me, Danny Miranda, you're telling me that if I undergo this journey or whatever, and I start to look at all the areas and parts of myself where I'm not free, I can start to actually experience God, not
Yes.
believe in God, not believe
Yes.
in God as a thought, as a belief, as a story. You're telling me that in this life, regardless of what I'm doing, whether I'm picking up garbage or if I'm a billionaire, I have the opportunity, the same opportunity to actualize God experientially, right? And it's
Yes.
the highest potential for man. That's what this
Yes.
life I can do in this life. Are you fucking shitting me? Are you fucking kidding me? That's
I
what.
think Video King Pablo just got a new ad for my freedom guiding program.
Like, dude, once I realized that, I was like, oh my God. Those are the stakes? I thought I was ambitious before, bro. I'm like, the true ambition is, like, and that to me, and the cool part is like what you said, where it's like, it's not like you hit 500 and all of a sudden this program gets installed in your brain that feeds you a new belief. Nah, man. Nah. It's like you develop the eyes to see what you couldn't see prior. And once you have the eyes to see, then you truly see. And then, what a beautiful journey. So the way that I like to see it, it's like God is just playing hide and seek with you.
It's been my experience, at least. And I've tweeted it along the way. So you could see all the times where I was deep into research and thought that was my North Star, and deep into business and thought that was my North Star, and deep into, like, you could see the journey, right? And it's like, this is it. This is what you're seeking. This is what I was seeking with success in podcasting. This is what I was seeking with success in business, success in college and drinking and all this. It's like, it's just success in and connection with God is what the deepest truth of what I was trying to get to.
Ooh. Dude, this entire conversation was fucking legendary. Holy fuck.
It really has been. It's been a trip. What a trip it is.
Dude, exactly. It was like a life in itself where we just arrived at this realization in a very deep way. Like just now when you're like, everything I was seeking was connection with God. Mic drop, please.
Wow.
Dude.
I'm honored. I'm honored just to have a friend like you in the world and doing things you're doing. And I'm so excited. You're 29 years old. Like, what is about to unfold in the next 29? Oh my God. With this realization, with this knowing, with this power, with this connection, like with this presence that you hold, what is possible? What opens up for you when you come to Austin, Texas, and you end up staying here forever because you're just, I feel the presence of God more in the city than I ever have in my entire life. What happens? Dude. What happens to one Tej Dosa?
Dude, it's so funny what you say about Austin, because like what you just said there, where you're like, what happens once you come here and you feel that love and you never leave? I feel that deeply.
Yeah.
And I can also feel like the invisible parking brake that is being placed on that, because I know what's going to happen once I come there.
Bro, there are people who are so agnostic or so atheist, and they come here and they're like, I don't know why, I just feel better here. I don't know why, I'm just more light here. I don't know why my life is just happier. Is that real? Is that a dream? These are people who are atheists and don't believe in God or don't have any acknowledgement of it. Wow. So one Tej Dosa, what is going to happen? He's going to become the mayor of the city. He's literally going to be running for Congress. In due time, people are going to be putting him on ballots and voting for him. And they're going to be like, all right, this is the only way we can get Tej to stay is if we make him the mayor of the city where he's forced to stay every day. So what's the invisible parking brake? What are you having trouble letting go of your future, Tej?
It's like what I'm sensing is once I come to Austin, a lot of what's in my life currently, and some parts are great, majority of it is great.
Yeah.
It's going to unravel in a very deep way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I sense it. And I also know that it's really interesting. I also know that the next chapter of my book starts in Austin.
Yeah. I just got chills, lit up. I know that's true. And you know that's true.
Yeah. And I've been seeing like a lot of different, it's like what Mike Posner said, where he's like, you get these signs and then if you listen, it's chill. You listen. But if you don't listen, it just comes with greater intensity, more and more. And the truthful answer, the real answer is I've just been a pussy.
I love you. I know that. I know that at a deep level.
Right? That's the real answer.
Yeah.
That's like, it's like holding on to the invisible parking brake. And that's like where I'm not free currently. It's like I don't trust deeply enough to let go of all my invisible parking brakes. I can let go of 99%, but it's very different. That 1% between 99 and 100% is where it all fucking happens. In many ways, when you're holding on and you've let go at 99%, it's very similar to letting go at 0% because you still have that 1% becomes your entire world now.
Yes.
So my journey, brother, is to let go of that last 1% and begin the next chapter of whatever comes next.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm also not. Of course, we're dealing with the same thing. I am 99% of letting go of the situation that I don't feel comfortable to talk about right now. And what Talia just kept telling me is like just the present moment. You're not that important, and like it might not unfold how you expect it to unfold. So don't create this vision of you being the mayor of like in your scenario, or don't create this vision of what it will be when God is working through you, and just let it be what it is supposed to be, even if it's not what you expect. One moment at a time, be present to the creation of what's happening, and just visit, just see what it's like. It might not be anything like you expect it to be. And it might be different than I describe it in some way. And that's great. And that's new knowledge. And it might be better, it might be worse. And it's like we create these scenarios in our head. And I just did it for you of like, you're gonna love it, you can't wait. And it's like, okay, maybe. And also maybe not. And also who knows? And also let's see. And yeah, I think when we put these expectations on the future, because we're excited about something, which is exactly what I'm doing, it creates fear around it, which is such a crazy realization that I just made. Oh my God.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Dude. That
Wow.
was brilliant what you just did. That was fucking brilliant.
Oh, I'm going to have to
You
replay that for
explored that
myself.
live. You literally just explored that live and got the treasure on the other side of it, that insight.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Dude.
When we're so excited about something, when we have such great expectations, it creates fear.
Dude, I think you just freed me.
Like, I freed myself too.
No bullshit. Wow.
Wow. I'm in awe. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, God.
I say dude, but I really mean God.
I said dog yesterday, and someone was like, "Do you know that's just God backwards?" I was like,
Wow.
"Wow."
Never thought of
Dog. Dog. God. Wow.
that.
Wow. That's a cool realization that I'd never have made before.
It's an amazing realization. See, what you just did there is like that place you went to and how you arrived at that new realization. That to me is like when you're on the cutting edge of reality and you're actually open for something new to arise and surprise you. So
Yeah.
that place to me is like where things actually happen. And until you go to that place, it's just like more or less the same. That to me is the difference between surrendering to life compared to surrendering to conditioning.
I appreciate you saying that. And that is just living in presence. And that is just really trying to sit with what is Tej dealing with? How is this related to my own life? How did I go through it myself? How am I going through it? What is happening? And just playing it and playing it and playing with it. And completely being okay with not having the answer, but just working through it. And realizing that there is a deeper truth, a deeper knowing, a deeper thing that we're avoiding or we're not thinking about that is in this situation that is part of the reason why we're here. So, yeah, man, it's an honor to be able to explore some of these stuff with you. Like, it's what an honor. Because if you have two free people you get to more truth and deeper truths quicker and just at a rate that allows more amazing things to come up. So what an honor. Like, you did the work on yourself to allow that insight to come through.
Yeah, like it's such a beautiful and rewarding process, because it feels like, to me, it feels like when 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever the number is, people come together, there's a field that gets created.
Yes.
And it's similar to what you said when you were describing the retreat, and I've experienced this in my own life, where once one person goes somewhere or they reveal something, even if the other people aren't quote unquote working, the other person's work affects them if they're sensing their arms and legs and they're aware and tapped in and grounded and rooted in the present moment. So when one person goes there and you're open, it sends ripples throughout the entirety of the field, and everybody feels it on some level, and that in return allows them to also go there. So I think it's very magical when, we just show up on these calls, and I was like, I have zero idea what I'm going to talk to Danny about, like zero clue. It's so much fun, right? I'm like, dude, I have zero fucking idea. Just going to fucking hit the call button. Skype's going to make those weird noises, and then we're going to be fucking flowing. And dude, instantly you were just fucking laughing. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. This is fucking it. And then you went there. Like, that's such a good example. Like, you started this call with just laughing. You were already in that place, right? And then I was like, oh, Danny's in that place. Not consciously, but just like, because you were there, I naturally joined you there. And next thing you know, 2 hours and 15 minutes have passed, and we've just been fucking flying and high on life.
And I have to say, the reason why I'm laughing also is, like, what was I doing before the call? I was listening to a playlist of worship music, right? It was just a playlist of worship music. I went for a run right before, and I was listening to worship music on the run, and then I listened to worship music right before the call, and I was just in a state of joy and love and peace. And that just made me laugh, because I reflected on so many calls with you where I wasn't in a state of joy and love and peace in 2018 or 2019 or 2020. And I was like, wow, what a beautiful thing it is. What a beautiful thing it is to be in a different state and to know that God is the reason why the state is existing, and Tej is the reason why the state is existing. And really, what's the difference?
Dude, it's such a good example, because like, even that, right? Like, it speaks to your freedom, because like, you're experiencing joy before this call, right? You're in that place and you're laughing and you're completely there. Some people are like, obviously in different settings, like if it's a different setting, I get it, I understand. But there's also sometimes a message that comes with like the inner critic or the superego. It's like, I'm experiencing this joy. Now I'm about to do this podcast, or now I'm about to have this conversation. So I'm going to put that to the side until this is done.
Yeah.
And you showed up on this call just fucking laughing, right? And that instantly breaks the programming. It breaks the programming of what a conversation is going to be like. Like, if somebody starts the conversation laughing and you can sense they're genuinely feeling joy and love, like instantly in that moment, whatever I was thinking about, whatever stuff I got to do after, before, next week, Tuesday, whatever, vanishes instantly. Yeah. And that to me is a reflection of your freedom, because it goes both ways. It's not just like going into the darkness. It's also like, I can shine this light as deeply and as truly as it wants to be shined through me, right? And a small example is that showing up on a call and just fucking laughing and being in pure fucking ecstasy. And then you just naturally invite the other person, the invitation is open. Come join me in this place where it's just raining joy.
Yeah, Talia has this thing called the boomerang effect. And if you're 2 hours and 18 minutes into this podcast, at Hey Talia J on Twitter is her Twitter handle. I should have mentioned it before, but I didn't. Amazing. And she has this thing called the boomerang effect, where she basically says, you are boomeranging your inner state to people at all times, and they are feeding off of that. And I just love this idea, because it's like, of course, if you start a call laughing, the other person's going to feel a little more joy than they were before. Like, they don't have a choice. It is boomeranged by you exhibiting that or feeling that within yourself. And so if you see this, you start to see it everywhere in interactions. How do you open up the interaction? What is your feeling in the interaction? And how does that feeling manifest itself in the other person throughout it? Like, to me, that's so exciting. So that's something I've learned from her, and it's a really cool concept. And it's interesting to hear how it was reflected at the start of this conversation.
That is so brilliant, because like to me that's like when we experience this, it's like, to me it's like proof on some level that we're just the same being in different bodysuits having this experience.
Yes.
And like
Yes.
when one person lights up, you can't help, like, you see it all the time. Like, for instance, like in the presence of a newborn baby, you could take the toughest guy, the most stoic guy in the world, and he'll fucking melt in the presence of that newborn baby.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Yes, it's so true. And I also want to bring up how we tamper our states because we don't allow ourselves to experience them, because we are not operating in that energetic space. So we therefore tamper ourselves down, like you mentioned before with, oh, this is a podcast, so we have to be serious or whatever. So what happens is laughter calibrates at a state of 790 of the 1,000-point scale.
Oh, wow.
For David Hawkins, right? So just laughing calibrates that high. And what do people say when they are laughing so much? One common phrase that people say is, "I'm dead." That's the thing that directly follows their laughter. Why do they say "I'm dead"? Well, "I'm dead" calibrates at 0 on the 1,000-point scale. And it's because the frequency of laughter is not something that they can hold in themselves, so they need to tamper themselves down. Woo! 2 hours, 21 minutes into this phone call, and we're still dropping something that's hitting you. Dude. And so look for yourself where you are not accepting. If you're not accepting a compliment, you're AKA not allowing yourself to feel good. If you have an amazing promotion at work, but then you won't allow yourself to celebrate after. Okay, how are you tampering down your own success or not allowing yourself to feel the love, joy, freedom that exists because you say something right after that cuts you down, because that is what you learned. Start noticing that, and your life becomes better.
Dude, I don't even have words. I can only make sounds at this point.
Honestly, I don't know if I've seen or heard this side of you before. And so I'm deeply honored to hear these sounds that I haven't heard before in our conversation. So I must know David Hawkins, and my connection with David Hawkins, rest in peace to David Hawkins, is doing something, because if you're making sounds that you've never heard before, that I've never, it means something about this interaction and the energy we are flowing on.
1,000%. 1,000% with all the explanation marks in the world. Dude.
God. And another thing that's cool about Hawkins's work is you can start to calibrate language. So when I started to calibrate language, I then understood. I said I used to say it's crazy all the time. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. What are you saying when it's crazy? What you're saying when something is crazy is that it's unbelievable, that it can't possibly be the way that it is. And crazy calibrates at 190. So 200 is the level of truth. And here I am saying, this is crazy. That is crazy. I cannot believe that this is happening. Okay, guess what? You are bringing down your state in this moment because you are not allowing yourself to experience the magic that is unfolding in your life right now, because you want to tamper it down because you don't actually believe that it's possible for you to experience magic.
Bro, you just nailed you just hit the nail on the head, because I realize that's like my default in many ways. Like, it's crazy or that's insane.
Yeah. I do that too. I used to before calibrating the language.
That's really interesting. And I can see exactly how that, like the joy, the light, high that comes from this feels fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Feels so rich and precious and expanding and breaking of the typical barriers and horizons. And I can also sense there's like some sort of like unworth or unworthiness in me that arises in response. And then I dim myself down and I go back to the land of the crazies.
Yes. Yes. When you say this is crazy, you're basically like, I am unworthy to experience this experience.
Exactly. Dude, I just had that realization just now. Thanks to you.
So good. And so what changes when you start changing your language? You start to feel higher and higher states.
Wow.
Yes.
Dude, even physically, I just like rose out of my seat right now. Right when you were saying you start experiencing higher and higher states, I was literally levitating out of my chair. No bullshit.
I'm clapping and standing up right now. God is real. Do you understand this? God is real. God is great. God is real. And God calibrates at 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine if all your words were God, who would you become?
Ooh. I'm making sounds again. Dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
OMG calibrates at 450. Oh my God calibrates at 1,000. And if you wanted to learn more about how to calibrate things, because this is just audio, go check out Scott Britton's Substack, and hopefully we can link a post where he calibrates things, because I use his method, and I've calibrated hundreds of things over the past month, and it's remarkably accurate. Like with people I know, with people I don't know, with photos of faces, with books, it all is a deep feeling of truth. And so, yeah, this is important stuff for the world to see and the world to know. And you know what is so interesting is that inventions are typically accepted by the world 60 years after they are first found out.
Mm-hmm.
Muscle testing was first found in 1971, and it was first used for consciousness work in 1976. And so it is my intuition that says over the course of the next 10 years or 20 years, we will experience a huge shift in the way that people think about this stuff, and a huge shift in people's understanding of what to value, which will go in perfect alignment with our new currency, which will be love.
Wow. You know what I find really interesting is I notice when I say this is crazy or this is insane, internally the way that it feels is like I have hands that are pushing away the experience. And when I say wow, or I make those sounds that I don't even know what the fuck those sounds are, but when I make those sounds, I notice the hands melt away and the moment comes in fully and transformation starts to happen. And that's why I was levitating out of my seat. As you were saying, you go higher and higher and higher.
Wow is almost awe. It pretty much is awe.
Yeah,
wow.
It feels like awe. Yeah, exactly.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity and get the opportunity to experience this and the magic of it. This is crazy is almost like putting the experience down.
Exactly. Man, even just the fact that you've put light on that,
yeah,
which seems so small, right? It seems so insignificant, but it's really not.
Shaping your reality. The words you use.
Yeah. Mm. Wow, that really touched upon something deep for me.
Yeah. I appreciate how deeply you let that hit you. And it's why the truth triangle with Elle and Talia is so powerful. Because it's one thing to know that this is crazy calibrates at 190. It's another thing to not, every time you change this is crazy to holy God, which is what we say now instead of this is crazy. Imagine you make a realization, this is crazy, and now you get that reflected back to you two different ways. So you go from everyone saying this is crazy to holy God, holy God, holy God. And that happens hundreds or thousands of times. You're going to go so much faster. You're going to light up so much quicker, and you're going to be more of a light because you're in the energy field of holy God. So there's something really powerful that happens when you have two people who are also on the same path with you and who are also feeding the learnings that you guys all get together and pushing them back to you at faster and faster rates and going faster and faster, higher and higher, and more full of love and more full of love and more full of joy, more full of peace. And more, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And I wish it for every human being, truly, to experience rapid growth and rapid feeling of God working through you in every moment. And you know that is happening only because two people are really making those wheels spin faster, and you're spinning their wheels as well. So how do you find friends like Talia and Elle and you? It's like, let's work to become that person. Let's work to be more loving in ourselves. Let's work. And what is the work? The work, it depends on the person, but it could be starting with meditation. Like if you're 2 hours and 30 minutes into this talking meditation, I implore you.
Talking meditation.
Yes, that's what
I
this
love
is.
that. I love that.
Talking meditation. And if you're 2 hours and 30 minutes into this and you haven't meditated once in your life and you don't know where to start, this is what I did to start. I got a kitchen timer, and I'm looking at it right now. It's probably the same one that I got and used in San Diego in 2019. It brings chills to my body just to think about that. That kitchen timer has been with me for all this journey. Wow. Got this kitchen timer off Amazon. I set it for 20 minutes. I woke up and I just got out of bed, put my back straight against the wall, put a blanket over me so it was comfortable, sometimes with a pillow, and pressed that kitchen timer for 20 minutes and then just existed. And that's what I did for 90 days straight. And within a month or two, I didn't know if meditation was working, but I knew I was experiencing a lot of synchronicities, a lot of connections that I previously never experienced before, that were filling me with awe and wonder, that were opening me up to the possibilities of life. And I would implore you to, if you got this far in the podcast and you're interested in these ideas and you're thinking about it and have been thinking about it but don't know how to do it, just get that kitchen timer, make your back go straight up against the wall, sit there with your eyes closed, 20 minutes, do it for 90 days straight, and let me know how your life is and what's going on. I'd love to hear at Hey Danny Miranda DM if you made it this far and do it for 90 days, or if you do it for a week, or you do it for a few weeks. I want to hear, what's your experience like? What's changing? I really feel like you noticed the benefit. I noticed the benefits a little bit after a week, a little bit after 3 weeks, but within 2 months, it was a clear difference. And within 3 months, I started to notice it impacting every way of my being. So that's my suggestion, or that's the thing that's coming to mind right now.
Remarkable. 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 Holy God. Holy God.
Holy God.
Holy God.
Holy God is right.
What you said about working with others, I think it's so powerful, because also when you go to that place inside of you that is much deeper than the familiar way that you know yourself, let's say you get in touch with more of the love that's inside you and wants to radiate through you, it's very powerful to have somebody external actually witness you in that place.
Yes. Because it holds you in the space of
exactly.
This is real. You're actually growing.
Exactly.
You're actually changing. You're actually being more
Exactly.
loving to yourself and the world around you.
Exactly. Like for me, I noticed initially when I was just like by myself and I would, do various different types of practices, I would experience various qualities arising, but my mind would almost like doubt them, like I was just making it up or I was just like imagining them.
Yes, me too. That's why I stopped meditating after doing it for 2 years. No one could actually validate that this had actually done anything in my life, even though I knew it had.
Exactly.
No one was. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about,
dude. And that kind of goes back to what you said: am I losing my mind or am I gaining God? Like you don't know until sometimes you have that external support that acts as a witness, and you act like a witness to them in their own process. And it's such an incredible gift where you truly realize that the greatest gift is just to hold space for another human being and truly see them.
AKA coaching.
Dude, I'm sorry. I like to formally apologize to all the coaches for my judgment on coaching as a whole. I seriously apologize. I take it back. I am reformed. I am changed. I am transformed.
I love you, bro. Can you believe we've never actually met? Like, this is the most remarkable thing. You are probably the person who has impacted my life the most in my entire life. And it's been 5 years almost, and we've never actually met. And we won't actually meet because you're too big of a pussy to actually come to Austin, Texas.
Exactly. Call me out. Exactly.
You called yourself that.
Wow.
When are we getting this on the calendar, brother? When are these energies actually existing in the same physical plane in 2024?
I say we get it on the calendar right now.
I think that's what the moment calls for.
And then I also think this being like, for me, it's very useful to I mean, exactly what we've been saying the entire conversation, where if you just say like, dude, I'm a pussy, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes shown
away
in the light, and then it's liberated, and now it's like, oh yeah, it's just whatever, fuck it, we'll just, it's done. But I think that's what the moment calls for. I think it calls for to get this on the calendar now, like literally today.
Yes.
And then also I want you to, if you're free, I would love for you to come out to, I think it's in St. Pete, Florida in April. I think it's in April 20, 21, 22.
Uh-huh.
There's so we have the other retreat that you're coming to this weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on my calendar.
I'll send you the details after this call. But then anyways, it's going to be an in-person one for the first time, and it's going to be in like prior to COVID they met, but now it's going to be in person post-COVID, and it's going to be in St. Pete, Florida.
Uh-huh.
So I would love to invite you and whoever else wants to come, and like would just rent out a cool Airbnb in nature and experience this retreat live, but also experience being in the same place. So that is on the calendar for sure. And then prior to that, I think the Austin meetup makes all the sense in the world, and we should get that on the calendar now.
Amazing. The St. Pete's, Florida, is that April 20th and 21st? Or
Sorry, say that again. Say that again.
Is the St. Pete's in Florida April 20th and 21st?
Yeah, I think 21st and 22nd. I think 21st and 22nd. Fly in on the 20th.
Cool.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think some sort of, it's going to be just to be in that space. And also I'm very excited for this weekend as well. I think it's going to be very rich exploration.
I'm really looking forward to it. I have no idea what to expect, but it's all on Zoom, right?
Yeah, this one is going to be on it's going to be on Zoom. But in terms of Austin, so usually I go 90 days and then I take 1 week off where I'll just go explore someplace.
Uh-huh.
I have that week open. It's the first week of April.
Uh-huh.
where after my 90 days end. So that's the open space off the top of my mind, currently speaking, with respect to what could work or what will work. Definitely that
I'll
first
be
week of April.
I'll
Are
be
you
in
going to be in
April
Austin?
for I will be.
Okay, this is the public accountability. That Ted just gonna stop being a pussy and he's gonna go to Austin, Texas, on the first week of April. See me at the airport, people. Pick me up from the airport, people.
I will pick you up from the
I'm
airport.
just fucking at you. But yeah, that's it. All right, okay. I'm gonna that's confirmed.
I'm putting it on my calendar right now. Ted's just coming to Austin.
Yes, that I got nothing planned that entire week. So Austin it
Amazing.
is. Austin it is. So that's the latest. If like something else happens and I can come earlier, then I'll let you know. But usually I like to go 90 days and then I'll just go take 1 week off fully and then just explore.
Fair. Love that. Love that approach.
Yeah, done deal. Done deal.
Wow.
Well,
Oh wow.
2 hours and 39 minutes. Dude, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for just embodying the space and just allowing, like, for instance, what just happened here to happen more often.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the freedom of the moment and what it's calling for, and to really be open to seeing the ways in which you are limiting yourself and being willing to correct those within that same hour or that same moment, right? You said you're a pussy and then you just have it in your head now that you are going, right? That's
Exactly.
2 different realities. That's a more free reality. And we work through why you might not be free. It's because you have these expectations, and with expectations comes the fear. And yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to witness, and it's so cool. And you're a living embodiment of freedom and love. And I have so much love and appreciation for you.
Likewise. And I think this is such a huge testament to, like, the way you were describing the coaching, right? Which is why I took back my
And I have a funny story to tell you about that after this.
Which is, this is like my live experience where I had a lie that I was believing and I just got coached. I'm like, dude, I'm more free now. Holy shit. Holy God, this works.
Holy God is right.
Holy God, this works. So yeah, I'm sorry, coaches. I like to again apologize, but go on. What was your story?
No, I'll tell you after. I'm not free in this space.
Okay. Oh, got it. But yeah, incredible. I think that was epic. Any last final parting words that are flowing through you in this moment?
I love you, Tej. I love the person listening. I love life itself. I love God, and I'm so grateful to be able to witness it all unfold. I hold everybody listening and all those that aren't listening and are scared to listen or fearful to listen or don't want to listen. I also hold their freedom in mind for them as well. And I'm just so grateful to experience this journey with you specifically. We have so many podcasts on the books. We have so many calls recorded that are not on the books. And so much of our journey, I feel like, will start to make sense in the next 5 years. And I'm in awe. I'm so grateful for it all. And I know we are here to bring light to the world, and it is pretty much light work for us anyway. So that's what we're here to do. And I'm grateful to be in this journey with you. So thank you, man.
Beautiful. I can't follow that up, so I'm just going to say whatever Danny said. Just, re-listen to that again and just act like it was for me too. But one thing I will say, just to you personally, is it's very touching for me to see how you honor the flame in your heart and how you follow that, even if society may not understand it in the short term. It's very touching for me to see how you show up in the world, the presence you hold, the love you give to others, the love you give to yourself, and the space you create in this experience of life. It's very powerful. It's very rich. It's very precious. And I love you, brother.
Heartfelt and so received. Thank you so much, man. In a world where it's difficult to see some of that stuff, you have the eyes to see it. And that's a tremendous gift. One of your many tremendous gifts to the world. So thank you, bro. I appreciate you. I love you. And I'm really grateful for this experience.